What the fuck was that? What happened? Full Gear happened. For anybody unaware, if the title and everything else associated with this show and its production, its thumbnail, its title, all that jazz, if that didn't tip you off, AEW Full Gear 2025 is in the books, and we here at Wrestle Purists and Ruthless Discussion are going to talk about it. I am your host, Tempest, alongside my lovely and wonderful co-host, Sat Nyangi. Sat, what the fuck is causing all this?
You get a title change. You get a title change. And you get a title change? It's title changes galore. What makes me what's kind of funny about what we're about to embark on is we've done ruthless discussions on this topic about title reigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the part that's making me laugh because we're like, yeah, title reigns does not need to be a year, it should be like an exception to the rule, shouldn't be mandatory. And the moment they do exactly what we said, I was like, not like that. I was talking about WWE. I'm not talking about the guy who needs a distinct title run. It's so weird because we're gonna get into it. We're the bulk, the main centerpiece is talking about Hangman's title reign. This time around, because someone did that thing on Twitter, which title reign's better, first or second? And I'm like, presentation wise, second reign presented more as a main eventer, but there's more memorable matches in his first reign in terms of like, the Danielson matches and,
that short program with Lance Storm or not.
Yeah, Lance Archer. Yeah, there's a yeah, because the issue was with his first title reign was the positioning of where he was on the show and how when he held a title, the hottest storyline was not him as champion, it was everything else but him. But the title reign itself, if you wanted to like talk about, he was a fighting champion, in terms of being a fighting champion, it was what it needed to be, but he wasn't positioned as the main guy. The second time around, he is the main guy. It's just that I forgot that he's held the title for 4 months. In my head, he's had it for 2 months. I forgot about the fact they defend against MJF, and I forgot, the Fletcher part. We talk about it, but I didn't really grasp it, especially when he did his entrance. I didn't know it was an obituary.
Yeah, bro. So this will be kind of the main talking point of all of this. The main event, which was not how I was anticipating any of this to go in our ruthless discussion here. Because, I figured there'd be some good things to talk about. We could, the Elite would probably get back together. I was thinking that we'd get the fucking Death Riders implosion or something, coming out of that match. We were talking in our Dynamite review for members only. Make sure you're a member.
Please.
That you were probably likely to have a few important moments throughout Full Gear, maybe a return, the Elite reunion, various different things, right? And one of the things that I had in the back of my head was like, I feel like we're getting to the time, anytime now, that Swerve Strickland could realistically come back, right? Meniscus injury is usually like 2 to 3 months out, and that's what he got done. So I'm like, maybe that would be like a nice way to transition out of this Samoa Joe feud for Hangman Page into something that's next. I don't know exactly what direction they would take with that, because they kind of tied that up in a nice little bow it all in. So what's the next chapter going to be? I was interested. And at no point did I consider what actually ended up happening. So the main event, cage match main event for the World Championship between Samoa Joe and Hangman Page. Cage comes down, Samoa Joe makes his entrance. Hangman comes out with a song from fucking Red Dead 2 that was fucking ass. I'm sorry. Like, I get that it's thematically appropriate and everything because he's a cowboy and everyone loves Red Dead and all that. It felt like it was the song backing for like one of those pre-entrance video packages. Bingo. And then he just started walking out and everyone was like, oh, I guess this is his entrance tonight. So, I didn't like a lot of the kind of one-off entrance feeling things that happened throughout the show. And kind of anytime someone's gotten an updated entrance in AEW as of late, I feel like it's been for the worse. So this unfortunately did not set this off on a heated pace because
No,
this match
sir.
starts and goddamn no one cares.
The
This
crowd was shit, by the way, throughout the show. I made it on my notes. I just want to highlight it. The crowd was shit. Shit. SHIT exclamation mark 10,000 times.
we need to get out of the Northeast. I've decided. We go to the New York, New Jersey area for AEW pay per views too often, and not very often do they yield on that return on investment. I thought they were pretty good through about the first like 3 or 4 matches. They were hot for that part of the show, and I did think that part of the show was better than the latter half of the show. Maybe the latter half would have kind of been elevated a bit by a more enthusiastic crowd. Maybe that would have played a part in it. But when we got to this main event, nobody gave a fuck. And I don't want to necessarily put all of that on this crowd because we were saying on the last Dynamite review that they've not done anything really to make Samoa Joe a dastardly heel. He just turned at the last pay per view, and we haven't had anything to cement that other than the fact that he's mean now. People were still chanting Joe. He's Samoa Joe. He's just heel leaning as opposed to babyface leaning.
Mm-hmm.
A goon squad for this one for the purposes of an entrance, I guess. And little did we know at the time that they were all just the stooges to be beat up later.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes out, Hangman comes out, they get in the cage, and it's not heated. And the first half of this match is literally nothing. You could there's no crowd involvement. It's basic standard stuff. Like
Basic
they're
cage
two
match. Yeah.
professionals, like it's not like it was sloppily done or anything, but like there was nothing to get invested in because this has been a fairly cold feud. And then Katsuyori Shibata comes down and he grabs the AEW belt and he starts trying to climb the cage. And Eddie Kingston comes in, and as soon as that happened, the pit of my stomach just dropped out.
Really?
It was not that Eddie and Hook came out to run these people off. And at that point I went, just hang on, what the fuck is happening? What is happening? And the dominoes started to fall, leaving someone left to be the last guy out there, someone that you wouldn't expect to be the fulcrum of all of this. But as it turns out, Shibata and Eddie kind of brawl to the back, and then Hobbs shows up. Shibata back from the dick surgeon and Hobbs back from the hospital. I fucking love when the babyface takes out every member of a heel group just for them to show up at the fucking match anyway.
Mm-hmm. With that effort.
In a cage match that's meant to be no outside interference, Hobbs breaks the door open, gets into the cage. And so they bump the ref, and Hangman's kind of beating him up. And I thought for a second, okay, they open the door so that Hangman could hit the buckshot lariat. That's a somewhat clever way to make it so the babyface can hit his finish in the cage match that he otherwise can't do because of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, whatever. And the referee is still down, and then you see Hook's scrawny ass running down the ramp, gets in the ring, tries to wake up the ref, picks up the belt, smiles into the camera, hits Hangman Page with the belt, wakes up Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe hits Hangman Page with a muscle buster on the belt. And Paul Turner wakes up and counts the 1, 2, 3. Samoa Joe is your new AEW World Champion. And they get rid of the cage, and all the goons come back out, and then the lights go out, and then there's illuminated at the top of the ramp is Prince Nana, and you see Swerve's house is lit aflame and all that, and he comes out to a new song as well. And I like his old song. Maybe I'll get used to it.
Mm.
And he comes down, he clears house. And like the last 2 minutes of the pay-per-view of just Swerve coming down and kicking the asses of all these goons, and then Hangman getting up to hit the last one with a few moves, and then them two standing shoulder to shoulder as the pay-per-view goes off the air. That's a solid visual. That's a solid last good 120 seconds. But this has been divisive online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not.
Congratulations, Samoa Joe. Congratulations.
Yes. Okay. Here's a fucking thing, right?
Yeah.
Me not liking this has nothing to do with how I feel about Samoa Joe.
Yeah, it could be in anyone, just to be honest.
Samoa Joe, I took a fucking photo and tweeted it when I was at Forbidden Door, and I said, like, we're all so privileged to be watching this legend still go out and be a legend and everything. A legend in his own time. I love Samoa Joe. Having Samoa Joe, your company's world champion, isolated in a vacuum, just that point on a piece of paper is a positive. That is not a negative, right?
Yes, sir.
My negatives with this are that currently I would probably say that Hangman Page is my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
And I spent the entirety of this title reign waiting for it to get good.
Same.
Having Hangman Page, the main character of AEW, have a mid title reign is simply not what the doctor ordered coming out of All In. You know, like, you kind of started running down a bunch of his pay-per-view opponents and everything, and like, none of these pay-per-view matches were like bad, right? Some of them were even great. I might say this cage match was bad. I don't think this was a good main event. You know, like, it dead crowd, not a lot of heat, and then a tomfoolery fuck around with a cage match is not my idea for how to close a show. But if you look through all of them, I wanted more out of the Hangman MJF program in the summer. I thought it should have been a continuation of what we got in the spring, in the winter, leading up to Revolution. I thought the work that they did is probably my favorite pay-per-view program of the year, right? We reviewed their interaction, their promo off in the middle of the ring, right?
We did.
That is my favorite segment on a wrestling show in 2025. I love that. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. And I spent the rest of the year going, Hangman will win the title, and then we'll get the next one of those. We'll get the continuation of that. That didn't happen. And MJF goes off to film something or take time away or whatever, right? And I kept thinking that at some point we would get the continuation of that, and it never came. Not to say that it couldn't down the line or whatever, but not within this title reign for Hangman Page. So that goes off. And then we get to All Out, another show that I'm set to attend. And he has a very good main event match with Kyle Fletcher that will probably mean more for the career of Kyle Fletcher in the long run than it will for Hangman Page. Not the important factor in his title reign, a narrative beat. And then we get into Samoa Joe, which seemed like another filler feud. Certainly was through Wrestle Dream. Certainly still was through Full Gear. And we were saying basically every week that it's a surface level feud, that there's not enough for them to sink their teeth into. And if there is, with whatever you wanted to direction take in narrative form, they have elected not to do that. And so I spent the back half of this Hangman and Samoa Joe feud waiting for it to be over, hoping that finally the next thing after that would be the narratively satisfying feud that will take this Hangman Page title reign to the next level. And it was the end. That was the whole thing. The whole thing was me waiting for this title reign to stop being mid. And so now I'm sad, and not even the fact that it is over and I'm sad about that, but it has come to the end with the narrative fucking crux of the matter being Hook. Now, the only tweet that I put out about this show as I was watching it was that it's 2025 and we've ended a pay-per-view with Hook being the focus, right?
I saw your tweet,
and of course, that has gotten a few people replying to it with some fucking headassery, as you're gonna get on Twitter. You know, I'm not naive. I know what to expect. You know, but it is the sort of thing where if you start to criticize AEW in a public forum, you do have the people just like that won't hear it.
They're shooters.
That's not exclusive to them by any means, but it certainly is a trait of the hardcore AEW fan base. And I'm getting people saying, "Oh, just let it play out." I'm having people say, why are you so against giving a young guy a chance and all of this to mix it up? Is he supposed to just wait until he's in developmental until he's 40 or whatever? I was like, I feel like you're projecting, you know.
Mm,
Um, Again,
mm.
do not use WWE examples against
I
me of
love
all
it.
people,
I
right?
loved your response, by the way, when you said WWE is not even a metric of what you're using on your. And I was like, I love it. 'Cause he doesn't watch WWE, so it's whatever.
Is not a factor in my mind whatsoever, right?
Mm.
Um, but maybe this will sound harsh, and maybe I'm about to be proven wrong by a great run that will be super interesting, and I'll eat my words and all this. But I'm
Mm.
sorry, for the last 2 fucking years, Hook has been ass.
Two packs.
He's a 2-pack of ass. That shit stinks. Like, this is not just some guy, that is being given the shot at doing all this, right? This
Yeah.
is not, I do not have a problem with the idea of the focal point of the end of the show being a young, otherwise unassociated guy within a main event act,
Mm.
right? That is not the fucking problem. The problem is I have been watching Hook on AEW programming now for almost 4 years, and there is one match people point to as a highlight. One. And it's almost 2 years old. What has this guy done that would make you want to give them the benefit of the doubt that this will have been a narratively satisfying choice? Maybe there will be that. And you know what? Fine. You can come for my neck when that happens. I hope it does. I want the program to be good. But I am fucking really I waited for this shit to play out.
Yeah, we
I
did.
waited for 2 months for the Samoa Joe Hangman Page feud to fucking play out. And this is what it played out to. This shit was ass. Really wound me up because I was about halfway through this and I had to like pause the pay-per-view and I had to like go to the shop and get some milk and whatever, right? I had to pause it probably when did I pause it? I paused it right before the Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly match started, right? So probably about halfway, and I was like, this pay-per-view is as good as I thought it was gonna be. I'm enjoying myself. I've seen some good matches. Everything's more or less kind of gone the way that I thought it would, or at least, like if Ricochet wins the belt, for example, that was at the very least an option we bandied about that was a potential. So like, things are going well. The matches I thought would be good were good, a good time to be had. And from pretty much the time I hit fucking play again, I sat there and just watched the life kind of drain out of me. Because the second half of this fucking show, with some exception, there's still some highlights, but like the second half of this show, while the matches for the most part were still like well performed, it was an otherwise lifeless, sometimes baffling affair. So my feeling on Full Gear ended up being quite mixed by the end. And the thing that I am most negative on is the way that we fucking left them. This main event deal that I simply do not care for. You know, it is what it is, right? Samoa, you needed a spark coming out of this fall period, right?
Yeah.
Like we've been saying that it's been a fairly lifeless affair, right? And I don't know exactly what like the other options could have been, for what either Hangman Page would have been doing during this time or what he could do going into World's End or whatever. But going with Samoa Joe, while on paper not a bad idea most of the time, right now after these last 2 months hasn't inspired confidence within me. And again, having a narrative focal point potentially going forward, you would think being Hook again does not inspire confidence. So it might be the spark that they needed. but it also might have been something to make the product less enjoyable for me personally. And that worries me because I'm wavering right now. I thought AEW was like, oh, bang, straight in there, promotion of the year through about like July. Like if you asked me all in night what the promotion of the year was, I was like, oh yeah, obviously it's AEW. They've turned it around. It's been a great year since like the end of January, beginning of February, when Tony got out of the weeds or whatever they say. That is great. But since then, we've just hit this fucking dead zone. Maybe this will be us coming out of it. Maybe this will be us sinking deeper. I know which of those I would like it to be, but I know which one, after right now, I'm leaning towards as a more likely possibility.
See, the thing is, I get why you're annoyed, because the alternative would have been Hangman Page wins the cage match, lights go out, Swerve's back. That's your conclusion. Imagine that. Imagine that. That would have been
Yeah.
like, that's it.
I
Him
talked to
saying,
Adam today about
yeah.
it, right? And because he came over just to say hi, and he was like, "What the fuck happened?" And I was like, "I don't know, bro. I don't know." Swerve and Hangman together, as exactly as I said, Swerve and Hangman shoulder to shoulder is a cool way to go off the air. You know what also would have been cool? Them nose to nose. And I would have preferred that. I would have preferred them and knowing whatever next chapter would be, like that's them as the next main event of the pay-per-view or something. You know, that was also an option here, and that is preferable to me. Maybe it's not to you at home in internet land watching, and that's fine. You can let us know in the comments how wrong I am, but you know, options.
We don't want. I don't want it either, because it's easy to forget that they're kind of. I'm gonna use the th word. AEW were kind of threatening us with this being the tag match against the Bucks. Do you remember how everyone acted? We're like, no, we do not want them to team up and face the Bucks. I'm talking about Hangman and Swerve. So this match was a match, and I feel like if the placement of this match was somewhere in the middle or third to last, second to last, and you had women's going last or whatever alternative go last, it wouldn't have been as bad. I think because it was the main event match, that's why it came across as bad. It was a fine match for what it was. It wasn't great. It didn't blow me away. It was very much a pedestrian cage match, and and most of the matches on the show, especially in the second half, it did feel like, oh, we need to get to point A to point B. It wasn't like I'm invested in the stakes of the match. Just it's all about, okay, what's gonna happen after the match? Where are we heading? Where are we heading next? You know, where we're going with this. It wasn't even like the match was like, it is where it is. Here's some salad. You know, next time I'm gonna give you a whole nice course meal, 3-course meal, whatever. Just enjoy the salad for it is. Most of it was salads. So the hook portion of where you are annoyed with is why, you know, initially I was taken aback because I tried watching the show live. I got to the I got to Mark versus Kyle O'Reilly, and Kyle O'Reilly's arms trapped in the steel chair, and you know he's selling the injury. Then my daughter woke up, and then I went to put her back to bed. But I decided after that match to go sleep. I was like, I can't do it. My brain's doing that thing when your brain's went to factory setting, and it's like, your head hurts. It does, isn't it? I was like, it's starting to hurt, and I want to wake up around midday, and I'm like, I'm acting like I'm drunk. So I was like, let me watch. At least I have like 4 more matches. I can watch the rest in the morning or whatever it was. But yeah, I'll go to sleep and I'll wake up and I see some of the results, and I was like, oh, but the hook part I don't mind, because him as a babyface is rinsed. Okay, he changed his theme song. He's not getting the reactions that he used to get. There is the the regression of his personality, regression of his in-ring work or whatever was burgeoning in-ring work. He hasn't gone to a certain level. So it kind of reminds me, again, I'm using his contemporary, Dominic Mysterio. Everyone wrote him off. Is that you're not great. You'll never be the second coming of Rey Mysterio. You suck. You're a 2-pack of ass. Gunter Jr., Walter Jr., whatever he used to call him. Your mullet is silly, because he was in that in-between stage where he did look silly with the mullet. And then he turns heel. Then he finds his confidence, and look where he is today. Ring work, let's not talk about it, because I'm still trying to figure out if him as a baby face, he's just withholding all that moveset. Dominic, I'm talking about. With Hook, his dad was a piece of crap once upon a time. You know, he's Taz's son. And him as a baby face hasn't really worked out the way he wanted. You know, 2 years later, like you said, stale bread. So you need to do something different. So him being a heel or him being in the ops the whole time, sure, why not? Him smiling and laughing and uncharacteristically, sure, let's go for it. I'm just hoping that because this is showing the investment. You can't do old stuff anymore. And like you said, that one match, you can't hang on it forever. It expired a long time ago. That one match tax is expired. What have you done for us lately? So I'm willing. I know you're saying, I know you're saying like, why is he involved in that kind of stuff? It's like you need to, right? You're investing in something. You're going to take the title off Hangman. So you might as well give a reason why. You're not losing clean per se. It was all that shenanigans and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying, oh, wait and see. But I'm like, they're actively investing in doing something different with him. So I'm hoping he can knock it out of a good promo. I'm hoping to see a more well-rounded personality. I'm hoping that hanging around Samoa Joe and Shibata, who's a trainer, highly acclaimed trainer, can rub off on him and he becomes a better wrestler. So I'm choosing to think of the positives in that regards, because at one point, like you said, you were a Hook, enthusiast. And I don't blame you because what Hook's shown us has made me go off the train a little bit. I'm like, I'm waiting for the next stop. That next stop is when you become good again. I was on there. I was with him. I was like, yeah, I'm on the Hook train. This is great. I'm getting off, man. This is not great anymore. So I'm willing to jump back on when he gets good. So that's the only part. Swerve coming back with a new theme song. It was a case of like, it reminded me of Triple H in 2000 when he came back during the Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold match. I think it's Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold. It was because I think Kurt Angle did like 10 German suplex in one match because it was touted by JR. And then Triple H, just in jeans, messes up the match, takes Austin out, and then you hear the stinger. It's all about the game and how you play. I was like, wait, that's not my time. That's not even my time. That's not even that's not the assortment of themes. I straight away was saying this song is ass because we heard it's like it's all about the game. You son of a bitch, what have you done? And I was like, I'm not feeling this song. And then he debuted it the next week. I was like, I'm still not feeling this song. I want my time. And then years later or a few months later, you enjoy it. So I feel like Swerve's new theme song is like you want that familiarity of his song and you didn't get it. I feel like there's so many emotions. Joe wins the title, right? It's shock because we didn't expect him to win. This I equate to Brock Lesnar being the Undertaker because that was a cold feud. That did not lend to you thinking that Lesnar's gonna be Undertaker because how bad it was. It's easy to forget. It's one of those things where the outcome outweighs the build. But that build was so weak to the point where like this is like another pedestrian Undertaker feud. Next year might be better, then he can retire. Nope. He loses there and then. You're like, what? That was a cold feud. This feud is cold, but Samoa Joe wins. And the annoying parts I have about this, only annoying parts is we're quite heel heavy with groups at the moment. Some groups are not gone. So because it felt at the time that the Don Callis family was going to rise to become the top group because all these wrestlers they had, Andrade joined at the time, briefly, whatever. It seemed like it's going to lead into being a huge focal point because it's been like a upper mid-card group at this point. And then, you had the Ops turning heel, but you also had, Hurt Syndicate now becoming babyface. So I felt like it was a good trade-off in that regards. They're going to be like they're trios champion, by the way. So it's like this. That's the level, them getting to the next level, and it's like it's too many heels around, and it's like, what is the story with the Ops now being the top heel faction by default because Samoa Joe is champion? Is Samoa Joe going to bequeath the trios title to Hook now? Because here's the belt. You should have won. There you go. I'm going to focus on being champion now. And then is Swerve going to be the one to beat Joe? I think that's because it doesn't fit. I can't, you talk about long-term storytelling. I don't believe that back in April or June, July, whatever it is that Tony Khan locked in the cards. He's like, yeah, Joe's going to win the title come November. And I see Righteous Reg mentioning that a lot of people will sour on Hangman Page's title reign. I wasn't sour like take the belt off him. I was like, it's unfortunate like Adam Cole's not around, Jay White's not around, heck, Ospreay and Swerve at the time, all the guys, all the key people that he can have emotional beats with were not there. So what he was stuck with was like Wrestler of the Week. It was Feud of the Month. He had a lot of Feud of the Month. The only one that wasn't was MJF. And like you said, it got cut before he can hit that sweet spot of like, okay, now there's a title involved. Now we're up in the stakes. Let's take it to the next level. Let's break into each other's houses. Let's, falsify information and get you arrested. Let's do it. Let's take it there, And it just never happened. And I'm with you. Everything you said is valid. The only positive I have is like, yeah, Samoa Joe won again. But I'm with you. It could have been anyone. Maybe except Hobbs. I'll be like, yeah, Hobbs.
I was going to say, if this was all done to elevate Hobbs, I'd have a little bit maybe more positive will towards it,
Mm,
just
mm,
kind of in general. Yeah.
mm. I know, because I see Hobbs there, and I'm like, dude, that could have been you, because it's kind of hard, because it's two sides of the coin, and I don't want us to be one of those people, because you get a lot of people being a bit facetious, like, oh, you don't want Samoa Joe to win? It's like, yeah, but CM Punk and Samoa Joe are both world champions. It says a lot of things. It says the state of the wrestling industry. If the guys in their late 40s, you're being an ageist. But you know what I'm trying to get at? Guys in the twilight of
Yes.
their career being world champions again, it's very much reminiscent of how Japanese promotion used to do it. You get legends. You're like, you have no right to be champion again, Keiji Muto. This is Tanahashi's time. Why are you beating for the title? You know what I'm saying? Those kind of times when you're like, you should elevate people like Hobbs. You should elevate. It should be Hobbs being world champion AEW and Bron Breakker being world champion the other brand. That's what I'm trying to get at. It stays about the state of the industry where the proven commodities, the legends are the people you still hanging your hat on, and you got young guys twiddling the thumbs. I think that's the only issue we have. And I put Hangman Page in the same regards, because Hangman Page doesn't have one title reign where you go and say he's a good champion. Because at the moment, you could say on paper or in execution, he's had 2 duds, and that's not good. Sting at one point had, he had decent reign, the feud with Vader, all that kind of stuff. But Hangman not having those defining traits. And for me, I'm gonna throw it back to you. It makes me think that last year when he was crashing out and he had the mustache, I wanted to say heel Hangman as champion. I think a part of the issue is Hangman Page as a traditional babyface has never been that interesting, because there's always more interesting storylines going on. And then he gets an edge, right? Then he shaves the mustache, then he crashes out, then he burns the house. He's a bit sociopathic. That's him at his most interesting. Yeah, people love the earnestness about him, but it's like you're missing a lot of things to make things compelling. Because had he remained the psycho edge that he had before, that'd be great. He kind of like alludes to it, and I feel like I feel like he should have won last year as a heel. And but here we are.
There's a lot of points that I want to hit on here, because
Yeah,
you raised a lot of good points.
I did.
I'll kind of start with the Hangman one and work backwards, right?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that he should have won the title as a heel. Maybe he should have. It would have saved us from a number of bad Death Riders months, perhaps. Just as an example. I know the fucking thing got good by the end, but whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I was there.
My issue with these fucking Hangman reigns, right? Because I think the first one is actually like all right. The quality of the matches are enough to make me look at that and go like, not a bad reign. The Danielson matches are fantastic. I like the little Lance Archer feud. I like his little feud with Adam Cole. I think it should have been more and it should have been better, but I think generally it was pretty good. And then he has a good match on TV with Takeshita, and then he loses the belt. I think that's a pretty tidy little reign. The fucking problem with both of these title reigns is that both of them were the climax of very narrative rich story arcs for him as a character. The Elite breakup angle and everything that ran for the first 2 years of AEW that then culminated with him beating Kenny Omega is incredibly narratively rich for Hangman Page, the character. His journey as a character and his anxiety, the drinking problem, blah, 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 blah. All of that culminates then, and it's brilliant. If you cut it right there, it's a perfect ending. The same way that the redemption of Hangman Page after losing his mind and burning a man's house down and retiring Christopher Daniels and all of that, these are both very dense stories with loads of good character work for him. And then each time he wins the belt and that stops, shut the valve off, there is no more character work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. It isn't necessarily to me that he should have won the title when he was interesting, because I like the idea that him as a character can't succeed within wrestling until he is whole, right? Until he is a fulfilled human being. Not saying I liken it to like Kenny couldn't beat Okada for the IWGP title until he had reunited with Ibushi, because he wasn't whole. He wasn't good enough as a person to be a good enough wrestler to do that thing, right? That I like that as a story to weave into a wrestling and simulated sport kind of story, right? However, Why are we now now it's a pattern. Why are we unable to have him win the belt and then have the next challenge that he faces be
Mm-hmm.
something with emotional significance? That's
Mm-hmm.
why I was hoping for more out of the MJF feud, because there was so much narrative significance in their little feud leading up to Revolution. There was so much important character work on both men's parts. And I thought for sure that's what we were going to get. And we didn't. And I was like, okay, maybe down the road, not knowing again that was going to be kind of a one and done pay-per-view feud with a lot of tomfoolery in the finishes that would lead you to believe that would continue, but neither here nor there. So that's point one. Why were we unable to continue Hangman Page as an interesting character as champion, as opposed to just the run up to being champion?
Yeah.
That's the first point. I do think that a lot of what the end of this year was likely to be got thrown out the window because of injuries and such. I would be shocked if the original plan for Hangman Page as champion was not to revisit the Jay White feud. You know, Jay White beats him 2 straight pay-per-views a year ago. That has to play into the long-term plan of the next time that Hangman is a champion. There's the guy that has his number, and then he can beat that guy, and there you go. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised at all if one of these pay-per-views was meant to be a Jay White deal. Maybe both of them. Who knows? You don't have that. You don't have Swerve, but Swerve was only gone for like 3 months, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you're writing him off for like a year like Osprey, where, yeah, you don't have the Osprey program to go to. That's a shame. Yeah, you probably don't have Kenny Omega to go to because Kenny is kind of sometimes there, sometimes not. He seems to be rather banged up and probably couldn't do the long main event match that you would hope for a program that would necessitate that. It's why we didn't get Kenny Omega and Kyle Fletcher after Fletcher wrote him off TV. You know, it's because he kind of needs to be hidden in trios matches and stuff for the time being. You know, so there are those things, but I would just like to think that the very talented people that are writing a lot of the bits of these shows could come up with something that would have been a bit more narratively fulfilling than what we got. So while I do think their hands were a bit tied in some regards, I also think that what they defaulted to was just again very surface level, as we've kind of been saying the last few weeks. Um, with regards to Hook, with regards to Hook, we'll go back to the Hook conversation because I know a lot of people were again being like, "Oh, well, you said that you wanted Hook to do something different. You didn't like what Hook was doing as a babyface." I'm like, "Yes, these are not the only two options that were available. It was not be in a dog shit tag team with Eddie Kingston and just be a nothing character kind of floating about, or being the guy inserted into a fairly flat main event scene. That is what worries me. I like the idea of doing something new and different with Hook to try and pull new characteristics, new growth and development out of someone that clearly they see something in and clearly they have done their best to try and develop over the last 4 or 5, 6 years, right? However, I am not only just looking at this from like this storyline and Hook as a wrestler, but I'm looking at it like a lot of these AEW television shows have been not terribly exciting from like the world title perspective, right? That has been kind of like sometimes you get a highlight like with the Hobbs match a couple weeks ago, but generally it's just not been that interesting, and we've been waiting for a character to come in to kind of zhuzh it all up.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think Hook is that guy. Again, I could be wrong, and I'd love to be, but if you're looking at the main event scene as a problem that needs fixing, I don't think that the fix to that problem is introducing Hook, who will then probably need to have matches with people like Hangman Page. Seeing Hangman Page versus Hook as the main event of Dynamite does not immediately instill confidence within me that that will be an exciting program. we will see what direction that all takes, because I very much like to be wrong. I feel like I need to keep reiterating that, it's really really tricky to balance a lot of sometimes conflicting feelings with regards to this. I don't know who's going to beat Joe for the title. I mean, I think we saw the two most likely candidates standing shoulder to shoulder at the end of this show. Yeah, there aren't a lot of people that are kind of emerging as other potential contenders.
Could have been Kyle O'Reilly, but that bad news about him not being in the C2.
It's strange. It's all very very strange. Yeah, I think I've said all my thoughts on this main event deal.
Yeah, that's the bulk of it. It is mostly because, like you said, I want it more for Hangman, and like you said, he didn't necessarily need to be heel for it to happen, and I do like the fact that he slowly but surely regained his soul along the way. That is true. But what I do tend to realize, I've noticed, and you nailed it, is he becomes very one dimensional when he's champion. I
Yep.
just don't know why they do that. I just don't know why they do, pepper in promos, spicy up a bit, but it still doesn't change the fact that it is lacking heat. You know, Adam's doing his best to get people into his feuds. He's doing his best to rally up the people. He's being a good baby face and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of like compare it to, you're not doing it because it's not your thing, but it is like for me on SmackDown, Cody's situation's cold because there's not anyone to draw that in. No matter how much this great promo is, like what you're doing right now, it doesn't really excite me. And I feel like that's kind of similar to with Hangman. Is like we want that feud you can chew on and then take, again, I'm using food analogies just to taste the juices. Like, oh, this is a great feud. You see when they did this, you see they did that. We didn't get that. And then it'd be funny. And my voice went up an octave. It'd be funny if we got a triple threat rematch with those three guys again, kind of right some wrongs, because it would be fun. You know what? It would be funny if it was just a month title reign and then Hangman does get it back. It's just like
I
we
did
need to
think
spice things
that.
up.
Yeah, I thought that was a potential, like, you didn't see that coming, and now back to your kind of regularly scheduled plan. And I wouldn't be opposed to that necessarily. It's just I don't know that that's gonna happen right now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because Tony's never been known to do that as well. We don't
yeah,
have something, only John Moxley, because Moxley's Mox. He said, I got this idea. Have you seen Rocky 3? You
mm-hmm.
know, that's what it was. It was because Mox came up with it. It wasn't like Tony saying, "Hey, wouldn't it be fun if you just lose to him in a few minutes and you win it back at the pay-per-view?" It was so it would take someone of influence, or if Tony's like, "All right, this title reign's kind of dead at the moment. I do imagine if Tony went like this. I do want another match there, but people not buying it. What? I have to change the title. That's the only reason to keep the feud going. Because if he loses again, he's like, what are you still doing here, Samoa Joe? You lost twice, bro. But now that he won and Swerve's back, it's quite interesting. I don't know if it's going to be Swerve versus Samoa Joe and Joe keeps the title again. Then you get a triple threat because, maybe Hook might be the next pay-per-view match. I know you don't want it to be a pay-per-view match. You want it to be a Dynamite Collision match to get over and done with. There's still the Eddie Kingston factor because now I'm seeing that was a trap. Shibata was there just to draw Eddie away from the cage so Hook can do his, shenanigans. So there's still that. I need to cough for a few seconds. So there's that aspect of it as well. And also it kind of reintroduces, because now you're going to have Eddie as the third guy to team up with, with Swerve and Hangman. So that is a kind of a positive to look forward to. Now you got those four guys against those three guys, maybe, and maybe another person might be introduced, maybe, I don't know. So let's see. We're going to be reviewing Dynamite, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's it. This gig don't stop. We keep going and going and going, and there's going to be a show in just a few days' time, and we're going to be here to review it. So I'm sure we'll have thoughts on that one as well. Fortunately, there are a lot of other matches on this show to talk about that we can also debate or rant about or whatnot. But I appreciate your positivity as always. I'll go through some.
We're yin and yang. I want people to
Yeah.
understand. We is like Tempest sees things from my point of view as well. But it's kind of like you have to have a balanced discussion. You can't for pretense sake. Like, I'm gonna be nice for the sake of being nice. No, it's a lot of things I agree with what Tempest said, but there's also like some good points could potentially come out of it, and I want to mention it. And I
Mhm.
want everyone when they watch our podcast to feel like all voices are being voiced. It's like your
Yeah.
opinion, your narrative, or even like we do devil advocate. Even if we don't believe it, we're like, oh well, certain fan base may see it this way, this may be that way. So we want everyone to understand this is not like a dumping session. Ruthless discussion is that we have a discussion, we talk, have a nuanced discussion, we explain what we don't like it. We can't say, oh, it sucks because it sucks. We articulate our points, and also Temper said he's open, and I'm open too. Like, let's see how it goes, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Hook becomes a hot act for 2026.
Fingers crossed, brother. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. I'll go through some of this show sequentially because there are some things that I do have some thoughts on from the
Mm.
early portion. Most of the tailgate brawl not worth watching. My feed of the tailgate brawl did not start for like the first 5 minutes. I
Oh,
start that show and the match is already in progress. The 4-way match, the the gang bang gang, they
gang back
win.
gang. Yeah.
The only important thing of note from that 4-way tag is that the Acclaim teased scissoring one another, and then they set up the finish. This is about it. I do not care.
I don't want them
Um,
back together. I want Who Can Survive 5 with the greatest wrestler alive. That was my thing. The theme song. I don't even know what theme song they have because I literally have not been watching any of that stuff. I like the new Max theme song. Has he released it?
mhm.
Because now he's a baby face. It's on Spotify. I need to look for it. But yeah, please bring me my best wrestler alive trademarked. Please.
Me being the face of Bowens FC has really been difficult the last 6 months, man. Like, because I see no reason why this guy couldn't have been ultimate spokesperson, upper mid card babyface. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I,
I
lo-
could really
It made me
yes.
realize as well. By the way, they are our avatar. I am a Max Caster, and he's Anthony Bowens. Like he is like when it comes to it, those are our guys. Yes, Max
Yeah.
Caster problematic. When he's problematic, he's not my guy. But when he's on his best behavior, I still love that guy. I love that guy. But when does something naughty, I do act like I don't like this. I never like that guy. He's an idiot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm dead though.
But
Yes, sir.
the this is tough because I was very much of two minds about the match that half started the pay-per-view. Because they did the thing they did last month again, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
the last match of the pre-show bleeds over into the main show. I didn't like it this time. Did not like it. Loved it
Sequel.
last month, right?
Sequel.
Now, there's a few, first of all, doing it back to back. I was like, okay, I feel like we just saw this thing. That was like, ooh, I didn't know you could do that. That's kind of cool, a new thing. And now it's like, oh, well, you liked it. Here it is again. And I was like, well, I like it a little bit less the second time. Just off the bat, I listed down a number of factors that just kind of made it. Ultimately, I put it down to it felt like sensory overload to start the kind of show this way, because when they did it last time with Jet Speed and FTR, that felt like they had an allotted amount of time for their little match on the pre-show, but these two teams put on such a banger that they just that amount of time wasn't enough, right? That it bled over into the pay-per-view, and what a great thing that it did, because it meant that we got more of this match and everything. It felt like it added to the show in and the match to do it that way.
Yeah.
Here, this match starts with like 2 minutes left in the pre-show, right? So it feels more like they just kind of timed it out badly. I know that in kayfabe world, like if this is real, you're not timing matches out because matches won't have allotted times. They'll just go as long as they go.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you're starting this match with 2 minutes left in the pre-show.
Yeah.
That feels wonkier to me. But then Kazuchika Okada doesn't show up, right? They start this match 2-on-3, sort of. They take out Mystico immediately, and he gets kind of carried off and everything. He gets written off, so it's 2-on-2. The whole time, Don Callis' fucking headset isn't working. So he keeps saying things that are like, oh, we're going to try and get Don Callis' mic working. And then a little bit of time will go, and then you'll hear him quietly saying more stuff. So that's not working. I can see the time's about to tick down. This guy's not shown up. This guy's just been carted off hurt. Then Okada does pull into the building. Then the pay-per-view starts. So pyro starts going off in the middle of the match. Then Okada's entrance hits where he does the full fucking get up with his entrance and the lights and all that. And he comes down. And then Mystico comes back out. And then from that point on, it's just a good match. From that point on to the end, it was just all like, sunshine and roses, and I really enjoyed it, and it was good. But everything up to that point felt like I was having a fit. Like there was just too much going on. And if that was happening like 10 minutes earlier, so that when this also, I get that they probably wanted to time up the start of the pay-per-view with Okada's entrance and everything and have that, because that's kind of a good way to start the show. Like that works, but it was just too much in a very short amount of time to make me not think that it wasn't completely disorienting.
I just want to highlight that Mascara Dorada performed so much better in this match, because that last match he had with Okada was a rare misstep. Even some of the moves he did in this match, I was like, we didn't see any of that. I was like, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he had a concussion or wherever it was, but he had a rare off night, because I've never seen that guy, have that kind of performance ever. So I was I was thrown. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on with him?
I was like, there he is. There he is. Where was this guy on Wednesday?
I did the Leonardo DiCaprio, but almost like, where was this? Where was this? You need more people. You have performance anxiety when you're by yourself. You need more people to see you performing. That's where your superpower comes from.
Yeah. Trios, man.
Yeah.
This ends up being like a good little match. Okada is now actively sabotaging Takeshita. Right?
I put on my notes. Yes.
Like we are getting furtherment every time. Like the situation is getting worse. And now Okada is actively like attacking Takeshita mid-deal, where he kind of like breaks up a pin but then keeps hitting Takeshita, gets him out of the ring. They're undoing each other's setup moves, and eventually Okada hits the Rainmaker on him by accident. Who knows? And Mystico hit La Mystica on Hechicero, and he immediately submitted for the win. It was a good match once the Gaga was kind of out of the way. But this then plays into more things to come throughout the show with regards to the Don Callis family, because of course, Don Callis, being the weaselly little shit that he is like half trying to play peacemaker. He's trying to settle things down a little bit between these guys and be like, oh, don't worry about it, whatever. And they do a backstage deal later in the show where it's the two of them, and Hechicero's just got all the money that they've ended up winning. And Don Callis is talking, and Okada just says, like, we lost because of you. And then Takeshita grabs the mic and says, you didn't even show up on time. And of course, Don Callis is like, hey, let's not blame each other. It wasn't Okada's fault. Doesn't say to Okada, let's not blame each other. It wasn't Takeshita's fault. So he's still very clearly choosing favorites, and we're going to get a big babyface turn out of Takeshita at some point. Maybe World's End, maybe the end of the C2. Who knows? A lot of these storylines in AEW are really playing out slow. So at this point, I don't know that this setup is not going to be paid off like at Revolution or something like that. But we are getting the progression of it in these matches, and we are at the very least going to have both of them in the C2. So one would think there will be an eventual match, potentially in the final. Maybe that'll be an appetizer match of what's to come later. I don't know. Maybe that'll be the payoff. I don't know. Maybe they both won't even make it to the final. Who knows? That's the fun of fantasizing about a round robin tournament, which is what we will very much be doing in the coming weeks with the full brackets. It's not a bracket, but a full field of competitors lined up for the C2. Overall, a solid enough. If you just watched the pay-per-view and didn't watch the nonsense that bled into it,
that was me.
This started just fine. This started fine from the feed of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was me. That's when I started, is when the fireworks, and I was like, oh, they did it again. But I wasn't completely annoyed. I was like, I had a feeling it might happen again. And then who knows? I always like to talk about the F word, the flanderization of certain things. So if they just start reducing it to that, I'm like, oh man, you've drawn from the well too many times, and now it's poisonous. But let's talk about the next match that we've been anticipating, which is Pac versus Darby Allin, and the
Yes,
fact that
sir.
Pac, when he first came back, I called it the Stampede singlets because it is
Mm-hmm.
the style of it is very Stampede-esque. But the issue being that when you have when you're built like a triangle, it's like a shame that you can't see your body. So the fact that he's wearing tights and he's reminding me like you like a dark dynamite kid, aren't you? Look at you. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
he's wearing tights. I feel like it's the best of both worlds because he ends up taking down the straps anyway. So I was like, dude, just wear tights. I get it. He wants to refresh his personality, his character, which is great because his old look was remnants of the King of the Cruiserweights. If you want to
Neville.
see the origin, yeah, it is kind of a leftover of that, and I can see him changing his whole visage since coming back, screaming to me that there's plans for him to become a bigger part of what the Death Riders are doing. And you and I had a discussion. I said, even though the thing we thought was going to happen to Mox didn't happen at the pay-per-view, I said that the deciding factor if Mox gets kicked out or not is if Pac wins his match, because he needs, if everyone loses, because Marina lost, Claudio lost, Wheeler lost, Daniel lost. So Mox will be like, who are you guys to tell me that I'm a loser or whatever? You guys lost too. But Pac saying that I won, I did it, I had a plan, I've beat the guy that you couldn't beat. That's a good thing to go that I should be a leader. It's almost like a biker gang. Because I watched this film, I think it was last year. I forgot the name of it. It's got Austin Butler in it, Tom Hardy is about biker gangs and all that kind of stuff. And you had a guy who trying to join the biker gang. He kind of got punked out of it. He later on killed the guy to show that I am the guy.
I'm
You
the
may not
alpha.
let me join. I am the alpha. I got my own gang now. You said I wasn't ready, but I am ready. Haha. So it's kind of like a lion and then the pride kind of aspect. Like the only way you can leave the Death Riders is you have to get bum rushed out of the group. So it seems to me that the one guy, the one person, the one within the group has got, if all of them, Claudia goes, I should be the leader. I've been here for longest. I've been doing this. You didn't win your match. So Pac has got one thing he can say that I should be the leader because out of everyone here, I accomplished something and I didn't let the team down. But yeah, I'm gonna start off
This match made me feel similarly. Like I watched this and went like, I think that's significant. I don't think that that's just your pay-per-view opener, good match, let's move on. I think that's going to play a role in what comes next because indeed Pac did defeat Darby Allin here because of Wheeler Yuta being a little shit. Otherwise, this was a very good little wrestling match. Darby Allin is still a fucking madman. He had big old blisters and shit all over him from that fire. It was pretty sickening, I must say, because they start with just some wrestling stuff. Darby kind of out wrestles Pac. He does a bunch of arm drags, does a bunch of roll up pins, all that good stuff. And then Pac gives him a press slam to the floor off the apron. And from there, like Darby is in a lot of pain. Pac rips off all his bandages. I don't know what to call the deal where you grab someone's arm and start doing this that isn't offensive because every name I've ever heard for doing that is not
not
politically
PG.
correct. But you know what I mean. He grabbed his arm with two hands and twisted in opposite directions. That was the most sickening thing on the entire show. And there were like multiple matches where people hit gushers and there were weapons of all kinds and thumbtacks or whatever. That was the most sickening thing I saw on the whole show. Yeah, he dug his nails into his back and did all that. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Don't do that. It's Darby Allin. He's going to do worse, I'm sure. And yes, good match throughout. Eventually, Darby locks Pac in the sharpshooter in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Pac starts motioning for someone to come out. Yuta runs in, he leaves the bat in Pac's corner, goes around, jumps up on the apron, gets in the ring, and the referee and Darby are distracted. Darby turns around, gets hit in the face with the bat. He takes a big bump, and Pac pins him for the 1-2-3. Interesting for all the reasons that you laid out. I think you're probably looking at the new leader of the group here when they eventually do that thing. My God, if it does not happen this week, I'm gonna blow a gasket again on show, like I'm one to do. But a very good pay-per-view opener, I thought. Very fun match. I was into it. The crowd was into it. It looked for all the world, like it was a shitty little heel finish, but I think that's fine for what this is and what it should set up.
There are certain things I did pinpoint. That shotgun drop kick that Darby did from the top on the seated pack, that looked flipping gnarly when that happened, right?
What a fucking madman. Like, it's not even in the top, like, 20 crazy, stupid bumps that Darby Allin has taken in AEW. But, like, yeah, to just hit, like, a flat back bump from the top turnbuckle to the floor, basically. And not even, like, a flat back bump, because that would suck. But at least you're controlling all your movement. But to hit someone and then not land flat because you then are kind of changing trajectory in midair wouldn't catch me dead doing that.
And then another thing I added was I said coffin drops are destined to be countered by German suplexes, because that's what exactly happened in the match when he went for that coffin drop and then Pac hit him with that gnarly German suplex. Like those are like the certain highlights I pinpoint for anyone that hasn't watched the match yet. And also the narrative crux going into it, in addition to Darby being burnt, was the fact that Pac said, leave your little toys behind, your little whatever, and wrestle me in a wrestling match. And what happens in the first few minutes of the match? Darby Allin out wrestling Pac. So I like that little nugget in the storyline when that was done. And of course, Pac's now won. Who knows what's next for him? He's in the national championship, TNT title. We're going to talk about later. There's a changing of a guard. Maybe he can go for that. In addition to leadership. But next up was the 4-way tag, baby.
This was probably the match that I was least looking forward to on the show. Like,
yeah,
it was fine, but it kind of came out of nowhere on the last week, and it honestly, I thought it was a pretty solid little match. I don't think it stuck out as bad by any means, but it was kind of like the last thing thrown on there to make sure that you were getting your Tony Storms on the show and various people. Like I said last week, I think I would have preferred just having the two semifinal matches be on this show. I know that would have made the card a little bit longer than it probably needed to, because you're adding another match onto what we already got, but still, I think it could have worked. Tony and Mina Shirakawa got the win in this match, which I think is good with the big package. The big package, Tony Storm pins Harley Cameron. There were a few people that I thought stood out very well. Again, Megan Bain. I think I mean, it's not a secret that there's something there, but for a lot of 2025, after her match with Tony Storm, like, she's kind of floated. She's kind of just done the rounds on pre-shows where she's faced the babyface crew of the month of Ty J and Harley and Willow and various people. But if at any point it gets to be her turn, I think that has the makings of a very good run.
This match in particular, it stood out to me that the fans are reacting to her in a favorable way now. It's starting to get to that point where I don't think she's long for this world as a heel. I think I'm starting to feel like if they don't win the tag titles, Marina and Megan being a feud is right there on the cards. If that particular reaction, because in that match she was ragdolling everyone. That's the main thing I took away from her. Her physicality was impressive. Those double suplex she does is hardly any kind of struggle you see in there. So the fans were reacting to her, because it's almost to the point. She's the kind of heel when you start asking questions. Why are you a heel again?
Yeah.
Can you remind me? Yeah, you wear these headdresses. You say you're a goddess, but my goodness, are you acting like a goddess? You are powerful. You are winning. You're not really cheating. My goodness, why am I booing you again? You are statuesque. Death by snoo snoo indeed. So I feel like, listen, lucky guy out there with a missing tooth. I do feel like that Megan Bain is not long for this world as a heel, because you can argue that 2025, we've got what the juice has been squeezed. She's a dominating heel presence. She's now in the tag team. That's all we're going to get. There's nothing that's going to improve unless you give her a title. Can you give her a title now? Nope. Okay, turn to a babyface, guys. I'm done. I'm tired of this shtick. Let's do something different. Kind of Hook. But her is not in a bad way. It's kind of like booking wise. She's stuck in the phantom zone, like you said. She's stuck in the tailgate brawl zone. Let's get her out in the wild and see what she can do. Because I mentioned it earlier. She had a match with Lena Cross. I think it was GCW if it was. And she was a babyface. But again, Lena Cross is quite tall. So it was a case of like, one kaiju with another kaiju, she was able to show weakness. But I feel like she has what it takes to be a baby face, especially a dominant one as well. So Megan is one to watch in 2026. And of course, let's talk about Willow Nightingale, forever breakout star. Any moment now, she's 3 years in a row, breakout star. It's almost like the Grammys, best new artist, huh? Stupid.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I look at Megan Bain in particular as
Yeah.
someone like maybe it goes along with what happened on this show, but I keep thinking that we're gonna get the time for Mercedes to lose the TBS title after one of these matches where she loses a shot at the world title, right? Where she's like the most emotionally fragile because she's just lost and she doesn't lose, so she's off her game, and then bam. I think if you wanted to, like, I don't see it particularly being likely because Megan and Marina are tied up with the women's tag title scene. But if you wanted to have that moment play out, you could have Megan go in there and beat Mercedes in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like quick match, like really take advantage of this kind of moment. And I think that would be a really good way. Like she needs something, like you said, to kind of like add new life to the performance and the presentation because she's doing really well with what people are they're connecting with the character in whatever character that is, but like she's doing very well. So I think you need to give the Megan Bain spot on the show something. I think that could be the TBS title. I don't think it's particularly likely right now, but I would probably think to start pushing things in that direction. I think that's a good next TBS champion.
You hit the nail on the head, wherever that character is. On paper, she is a goddess, but there's nothing about her character that's shown that she is worshipped. Because compared to what Mercedes, she's got this harem of men carrying titles. That could easily, you need a harem of men for Megan carrying grapes, putting her over her shoulder. Where's the goddess entrance? That would have made her get booed. I think that's what I meant. I meant there's nothing about her character right now that screams I should hate her. Even the whole perceived arrogance. Like, no, she does back it up. It's not over the top because what as fans we hate is when you rub it in our face that we're inadequate. That you're so better than us. All you're showing is you're valiant. She's such a valiant heel. I'm not hating on it. You do actually back it up. You never back down from adversity. You go in there and face it head on. Why am I booing you again, madam? I just don't know. You say you're a goddess. Yeah, but you're proving it. Had it gone with the extra trappings of having manservants, kiss my feet, bow down, and using people's steps or whatever, then boo. Or bullying her former tag team partner for being weak. Why are you next to me, you weakling? There's no room for weakness in this my kingdom or whatever. They haven't fleshed her out. That's another person, not her fault. You got a writing team. It's their job to flesh her out. If you wanted to get booed, give us a reason to boo her. They haven't really done much. They haven't really, give her someone a mouthpiece. Sure, the mystery is her not talking. I still think that's the mystery. I don't mind her not talking. I don't need her to have a soliloquy in terms of a promo. Have someone speaks on the behalf that generates heat.
I agree. Like we don't even really know why she's aligned with Penelope. She just grabbed the nearest available person who was a heel to just have another person in her act. And I don't know what their relationship is. So
to this day.
Maybe when we get the next step for Megan Bain that can come with a bit of character development, I think that would be good.
We do know. Actually, we do know. They have one thing in common, but you have to go on Google. Sister wives. Yeah.
I hadn't considered that. You are correct.
Janella.
We then had my favorite match on the show for the tag team championship of the world, Bro Dito and FTR.
Yeah.
Now, I have said time and time again that I think one of the biggest strengths of Bro Dito's reign is that it did feel, because it also came out of nowhere. Because them just being like, oh, they won. We were talking about on Wednesday or Thursday, Tony and Mina having the video and the new song and the whole presentation for them as a team. And I was like, well, they're winning.
Yes.
When they hit the fucking Bro Dito music at Forbidden Door and they had their own custom Tron, that was a bit more of a sign, for the same reasons. Like, oh, well, they wouldn't give them that presentation if they were just one and done, thrown together tag team for this little tournament deal. So sure enough, they've lasted longer than I'm sure most expected initially. Had a
Yeah.
very good reign, but because they were like thrown together, they're a Franken team and they got really hot, really over. So therefore, here you go. You get the belts. Because that doesn't seem to have been like the plan going in,
Mm.
it's meant that they have felt like they could lose the belt at any turn and not have that be like, oh, what weak champions or whatever. It just would have been like, yeah, I can believe that Okada and Takeshita would have won the tag titles last month, beating them because I don't know what the plan could be for these guys. I think the plan is just to go out there, be really awesome and over, and have good matches with people, right?
Yeah.
Have a tag team title reign. So when you go in there against FTR, I probably predicted that FTR was going to win the titles because it kind of felt like we're heading in that direction. But I like the uncertainty that comes with champions that if they win, great. If they lose, I'm sure it'll be for a good reason. That has been Brodito's entire reign, and it paid off here with a title change. Uh, I loved this match. I thought this match was fantastic. FTR are quite great.
They
They
are
are a very good tag team. I
really
don't,
good.
this is a hot take, of course. No one else thinks that FTR is a fantastic tag team, one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Well,
Um,
I feel like they're at their best when they're being FTR. I think they went through a phase when they start cosplaying as other tag teams, and I get it. They're giving it back. It's like we're paying homage. I mean, the name was the Revival, for goodness sake.
mhm.
Or initially, when Dax had his brief podcast, they wanted to be called Tag Team Revival. That was the whole name, and I think it was Sami Zayn who gave him the name. Like, you guys are like the Tag Team Revival because they were the mechanics. Just in case
Yeah, the
anyone forgot that.
mechanics.
Yeah. So yeah, they were, FTR. So I like them when they're themselves. I like the fact that is we're better than the tag team we're giving homages to. Not like, oh, we are homage. We love this tag team. We love you, Rock and Roll Express. We love you, Midnight. Now we're like, nah, we're better than you, Power and Glory. We're better than you, other tag teams. We're better than you, Tully and Aaron. Look at our Spike Power Driver, much better.
Mhm.
That's the vibe and energy I love from them. But yeah, I'm putting it back to you because I did interrupt you.
No, this team, this team has had a hell of a 2025
Yes.
without much to show for it in terms of big wins and stuff like that up
Mm.
to this point. They very much have taken a back seat to a lot of other tag teams like Brodito that get hot. And you know what? Fair play to them. They have gone in there and they have had matches with Jet Speed that have been fantastic, that have included them very much putting Jet Speed kind of over. Kevin Knight beat Dax Harwood very recently. They just lost to the Bang Bang Gang on a collision. So you would think that will then set up a tag team title match probably in the next month. That sounds fantastic. They have done a lot this year for the betterment of AEW's product, kind of overall and with the tag division. So to have that be paid off in storyline and in real life, I think is a thumbs up. I think the direction that we are going to be heading in now with the tag team division is pretty positive because it is quite odd to think that FTR really haven't had the run as heel tag team champions in AEW. That's fucking crazy. The only time they did that was in 2020, and it was 2 months between All Out and Full Gear, where they win it from Hangman and Omega, and then they lose it to the Young Bucks. That's insanity.
Yeah, I agree.
When I envision FTR, they are heels. Not to say that they were bad baby faces, during their run. Their run in, was it 23? With no, it's 22 when they won the belts everywhere but AEW, right? Where they had their trilogy with the Briscoes, and they won the IWGP titles, and they faced Aussie Open here in London, and all that. All that they did as baby faces. Really solid little run. But still, their best setting to me is as heels.
Same.
And their work as of late has been among the best heel work that I've seen them do, because they can be themselves in a match like this while also having their unique presentation, Dax's little like ask a question, take the mic away shtick, paired with Stokely. The whole act is working very much for me right now. And I don't know what the future is going to hold for Brodito and what that all looks like. I think we could see a breakup and a turn, because if you're looking for like a new kind of top heel potential, I think if Brodito breaks up because of something that Brody does,
Or
to then
Buddy.
to pair him with Buddy, I think you could put Brody King in a top tier of talent very very easily, while also still leaving the tag team division in a very good place with a very good set of tag team champions. Because this match was just fucking sensational. Like, you go through, you can tell all the various, spots and everything. Brodito hits like a picture perfect, like so graceful high cross to the outside early on. They catch him, they throw him in the announce desk. That was
Yeah,
good.
I
You
love that.
know, the whole closing sequence and series of closing sequences just it hit that next gear that basically all three of the tag matches on last month's pay-per-view did, where all three of them just felt like, oh, the tag team division is back. And this month we had the one tag match, but it still delivered. It feels once again like AEW might be a bit of a tag team territory, where
Again.
you expect a tag team title match on each show to be a show stealer, perhaps. And with FTR as champions now, I don't see that having much chance of slowing down and changing. So eventually, Brody gets pile driven on the apron, leaving Bandito and both of FTR in the ring. And Bandito's just valiant. He kicks out of like three different things, and he flips them the bird immediately after kicking out of, I think, the stuff pile driver. And they just grab him, hit the shatter machine, and pin him. And I saw this and I went, what great baby faces. Even in defeat, like, they lost clean. There wasn't too much treachery to be had here, but they were
No.
valiant in defeat. They were badasses to the end, and they went down swinging. What a match. Thumbs up. My favorite thing on the show.
If I may add, there was one negative for me. It was that the false finish was reaching an exasperating level. I was like, come
Mhm.
on, guys. That is almost like it almost felt like it was 7. There was that. No, okay. That's okay. That's not okay. That's okay. That was a belt shot, but he kicked out. So it was almost like, when each false finish was a good finish. So I was like, your last finish better be as good as those previous ones for it to be a dud. Then
Yeah.
that's what that's you risk on, do a Shelton Benjamin. That's my cutoff point. Ref, Paul
Yeah.
Turner, you know. So if there was one match Paul Turner should have fucked up on, it should have been the Hangman match. LOL. Uh, uh, but besides that, yeah, it was a good match. It was one of those matches, like you said, it got to that next level when it was reaching that apex, and the false finishes kind of add to it. It is like an emotional manipulative tool to use on the fans, because they've bitten on the match. Like you said, the reaction rate on some of the matches are like diabolical, almost like graveyard level. You think, is that the same crowd that's reacting right now? But that match was where it needed to be. But what's next? There's always the question: what's next? For Brody King, we talk about his potential about being a monster heel, this or that, or the rather. Unless Buddy's not in question, I still felt like it was always destined for him and Buddy to be given a shot as a tag team. It's like, oh, the albatross that held you guys in in the trios, land, in the trios Bizarro land is now gone. We're gonna push you guys, hey Julia, okay, bye Julia. So I feel like Buddy it's that thing where like they got this run they're meant to have, and I don't know if they see him as a singles guy, Brody being, and I always feel like as much as Brody King is a stand-up guy in real life, I just want him to be choking people out as a heel,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's the money for him
Mhm.
as being as a champion. Is like they got so many great baby faces, almost like generational levels baby, because that word gets thrown out generational. But you got the kind of baby faces that you put in the territory as your top guy, and it's quite crowded in that department. And when it's in terms of heels, they are kind of scrambling a little bit. It's not like, oh, we've got like this rogues galleries heel. I mean, that's why Hangman kind of struggled a bit. And you got someone like Brody King, who's still relatively in the healthy 30s category, like mid to late, wherever. it's time to pull the trigger. But he's always been a tag team guy. He's always been the guy that's even enforcer, part of group. I remember he was in the group of Homicide and ROH. You know, he's been bounced around a lot. You know, he used to be part. You know, he's the team of PCO. That guy's been bounced around in many different groups, left, right, and center. But he's really been given the ball to run with as the guy. You know, so I'm hoping that now the fans are used to him, they're reacting to him. Because that's another thing. It was like in the beginning, it was quite like, oh, he's a big guy. I don't really know his work, but he's been around for a while now. People gotten to know him as a person. So I'm hoping, because I feel like it's almost like a Hobbs territory. Imagine, look how many times we said the Hobbs is awesome. Everybody knows this, but has he gotten there? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's been a Hobbs territory. It's like, yeah, he's great, but big guys rarely get to the next level unless you're, you know, Kyle Fletcher. You can hide with your moveset. Shh, don't let him know I'm really tall. I do cool moves.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I love Brody King's work.
Dude, I love it too.
Always
Yeah.
have loved his work. He's a great guy. I don't want to boo that man, but I wanted to be such a monster that I can't help it. I thought that, like, you know, until Buddy got hurt, I thought the Hounds of Hell were going to take the titles off of the Hurt Syndicate. I thought that was going to be like the all in match, you know.
I think it could have been, yeah.
I think it could have been, you know, and we might have changed directions when rolled his ankle. Why'd you do that? Why'd you roll your ankle so bad that you're out for like a fucking year?
Yeah, I rolled my ankle and I was off for a few days. This is back in secondary school.
It's got to be the worst rolled ankle ever, all time, all my life, which is very disappointing. You know, because I like Buddy, and it seemed like this year could have been a little bit of his as well, and he's had to watch from the sidelines as Brody gets, you know, the run that was maybe kind of destined for them. I don't know how this all is going to pan out for them. I will say, with regards to the false finishes and everything, I didn't mind them. I agree that they were maybe a little excessive because they just kept going. But I also like to try and like also remember that, you know, Bandito is like the Ring of Honor world champion in his own right. Like, he is the smaller of these two men, but not a lot of people have been able to beat him this year in any form. So going as far as they did, where he then gets up and just goes, fuck you. And then they kill him. They put the bullet in his head with the shatter machine and do it. Like, if it was somebody else, if this was another match, maybe it would have like started to get a little grating. But as you said, you want these matches and everything to peak with the finish. And I can't say that they missed the peak by doing a few too many false finishes. Like, I think it all worked out, but it was definitely becoming one of those kind of matches, you know, but they finished it before it got too far for me.
I was expecting Statlander's rocket to just drop on him just to stop him. I'm like, that's enough, you know, enough, as Cody would say. But yeah, like, whatever's next for them, we look forward to it. Next up is the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal Extravaganza. We hurt people, or we bold people.
Oh my god, the fucking bald chant is the worst thing to happen to wrestling. Yeah. I remember what, because it was in like, I think the Ricochet Claudio match last year, the first like week of the C2, and it was in Chicago. Yeah, so it would have been around that time. It would have been the Thanksgiving episode, and they all just, you know, started chanting bald, and it has fucking stuck around for a year. And I get it. It's funny. It's funny if it's Ricochet, because that is kind of his thing. When Mark Briscoe grew a mullet, or not a mullet, a mohawk for his feud with Ricochet, I was like, you're a smart man. You're not going to get wrapped up in all this bullshit. But just the fact that every goddamn chant has to be about being bald if it involves people that are bald. Like, we bald people. We bald
I loved it.
people.
No, I'm sorry.
Like,
the are bald people. We are both.
God, it's excessive. It's nonsense.
Is it shenanigan we would have done? Is it shenanigan we would have done once upon a time on a news outlet?
Yeah, it probably would have been. But we could do that in a news video. I'm not in the crowd chanting bald.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, this Casino Gauntlet match. I have all the competitors in order and all that good stuff. Oh, wow. So we have, of course, Bobby and Shelton starting. And this segment was not nearly long enough for my liking. Like, you know, we saw that and went like, okay, we're going to get, you know, even if it's for like 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to get Bobby and Shelton. and they're just gonna tee off on one another. It's gonna be awesome, and then they'll stop doing that, and that'll be a little taster of the Hurt Syndicate fighting one another. They like kind of grappled for like 30 seconds, and then the clock started counting down. So anyway, Ricochet was out third. He had a mic. He was like, "What are y'all doing? No one pays to see wrestling. We want to see y'all fight, throw haymakers, beat the shit out of each other." And before he can get in the ring, the Demand slide in, beat up both of Lashley and Shelton, take them out, throw them into the steps, and all that good stuff. And I like that. A lot of the presentation having to do with Ricochet on this show was very good. And we will come to find out why. But that was third. Fourth was Claudio. Claudio comes out. They, have a good sequence as well. He hits a mean uppercut as Ricochet was coming through the ropes on a dive. Just absolutely kills this man. And then Garcia comes out fifth. So they double team Ricochet for a little bit. Then Orange comes out sixth. He slaps Ricochet's head, just kind of, smacks him. And again, that was fine. They do little bits. And then Yuta comes out seventh. All the Death Riders attack Orange. Yuta, and I like this was a nice little bit. There was an inverse of how Orange has fought Daniel and Wheeler in their various tag matches, where they were taking turns beating up Orange in this match, and Yuta was hitting Orange hard, and Garcia was hitting Orange lazy. And that's how Orange has fought them in the recent months and weeks. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a good little inverse of that dynamic. So that's good. Kevin Knight was out next. He has a solid little run, does a big jumping clothesline down the ramp. Very good stuff. Roddy Strong comes out ninth. He hits a bunch of backbreakers, as he's one to do. He is awesome. Mark Davis comes out 10th. And he was one where, like, didn't get a big pop coming in, but then he just started going nuts with pile drivers. And by then, everybody, like, starts giving him the ovation that came along with that.
Yeah.
So that was nice because he was the only one of the Don Callis family that came in for this. And that felt like, oh, that's a little interesting. I guess most of the rest of them are busy, but like, yeah, interesting that Mark Davis pulls the shot for this one, but he made the most of it. So that was good. Speedball was out 11th. Jet Speed both go for covers at the same time, and that starts tension. And they start fighting a little bit. And Kevin Knight did this awesome Matrix dodge and stayed on his feet. Didn't like dodge back, then catch himself and come back, but just did the lean all the way back to avoid one of Speedball's kicks to then bring himself all the way back. That was thumbs up. I love these two together. Kevin Knight, world champion by the end of 2027, I'm going to say. I'm going to give them 2 years. If he's not champion in 2 years, check back. I'll have a problem with it.
Me too.
But we had then, as Daniel Garcia kind of is in the middle of something, he's got the Scorpion on, or the Dragon Tamer, as he calls it. There's too many names for this goddamn sharpshooter, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Matt Menard comes out last.
What do you want? What do you want? Huh? What do you want?
A piece? You want a piece?
What do you want? He said like almost like 12 times, and I love it. And the thing is, listen about his hair for a second, because I'm that guy who notices about people's gear and hairstyles and everything like that. I'm like, did he cut where is there a strand of hair? It's kind of like, it works because he's kind of a madman, but at the same time, come on, Matt. Is it what you want to have long, luscious hair like you used to have before, or just cut it off? What do you want, Matt? What do you want, Matt? What do you want?
What do you want, indeed? So Daddy Magic confronts Daniel Garcia, and they kind of like just brawl into the crowd, and off they go. That's the end of both of them. And that was the last entrant that we got. They said, like, we'll never know how many more were coming, but there was a pretty long interval from Matt. It's like, no, that was just the last one, because they were doing them quick up to that point. So this was the end. But we got a big old meat showdown between Mark Davis, Claudio, Lashley, and Shelton. They all fought, and it was good stuff. Hurt Syndicate cleared house, and then Orange went and hit a bunch of orange punches. And there was one, again, I try to avoid spoilers, typically when I'm watching pay-per-views or shows the day after. But I am a millennial that is addicted to their phone, and my thumb will just, like, through muscle memory, open Twitter at various points. And I'll immediately be like, no, what am I doing? Close it. And the only thing that I saw, the only thing even remotely spoiler-esque was a tweet from Ibu that just said, like, there is anger in this building right now. And so I went, oh God, does that mean they did something? Obviously, it ended up being Hook. But at the time, I was like watching the whole show being like, they're going to be pissed at something. Are they going to be pissed just because a big old heel did something and that's horrible? Or are they pissed about the booking or something, right? Like, what are people mad about? And as soon as Orange starts hitting punches here, for half a second, I went, oh my God, Wheeler Yuta is going to win this belt. Thinking that would have been the anger-inducing thing. But that didn't happen. Instead, few more people start kind of having their turn to hit moves and such. Kevin Knight hits the UFO, and as he pops up, Ricochet hits the Spirit Gun and gets the win. Ricochet is your first ever AEW national champion. I like the belt. Belt is pretty belt. It is the most old school looking belt I have seen come through a wrestling promotion in I do not know how long.
Especially it being AEW, because they've kind of had like modern belts that look almost like a spiritual successor to the Lucha Underground titles. Especially some of the, like the women's title and the international title. So the thing is with the national title, it almost feels like the global title, as in like, great, you brought a belt that kind of matches the description of the old one, but this is not new territory they're trying to enter in. But the real positive is Ricochet, the payoff of leaving the company. And I thought, you know what? You're a good speed champion. You are. You are. You're a good hand. Put over my new dog. His name is Bron. But he's like, nah, bruh, I need to leave, because it was a case of that his contemporaries like Will Ospreay and so forth are in AEW being treated like they're being revered. And he's like, I was once in a match with that guy. Why? Not why. Obviously, he's in that level. It's like, I would like to be on that level, I don't want to be good hand guy. You flip well when you get hit with clotheslines, or we don't give you the microphone because you just flip well. Your flipping is you communicating with the fans. No, I want to talk. You can't be a heel. You're too nice. You're a nice bald-headed man with immaculate facial hair. No, I want to be a heel. So he bet on himself. He went to uncharted territory because he's been stuck in the WWE branded umbrella for such a long time. It's quite hard for a lot of people to know that he existed before then. That's how branded he was. So for him to go to AEW and do something he's never done before, or really, honed in on it, trying to be a heel, being a heel, succeeding, finding a cadence in his promo, because I think he's got a southern drawl when he speaks, and his voice is not particularly bassy. So that's always left him sounding some type of way, but he found a way to navigate it where it works to his benefit as a heel. So when you're playing the chicken shit heel, you don't have the most intimidating voice. He sounds like the kind of guy that's like, oh, can I get some dope? I've never done this before. He sounds like a square. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a baby face, it never worked. You're like, I'm gonna boo you. You sound like a square. But as a heel, it works. He found a good rhythm with his promos, because people say, oh, he's become good with promos. It's just like he finally found his voice within doing a promo. Because you can go back to his old promos from back in the days. He used to throw out corny word salads because WWE have it on the sheet. I'm gonna win this match and do this, blah blah. And you're like, yeah, he sound disinterested. But now, because they're more of his own words, they have the creative input. And then, the scissors can come out anywhere, anytime. The demand, the only thing, I'm gonna go Sat's little musings. Why did he not come into his theme song? I don't care for the demand theme. Demand theme's good for the group, but him as the leader, it should be his theme song. I want to say, go, Ricochet. I wanted that song, and I was robbed of it. Right?
Well, we were robbed of a lot of good themes on this show, unfortunately. But
and another thing, another thing, Wheeler, get rid of that fucking theme song. It doesn't suit you. I mean, Daniel Garcia's been there for 2 minutes, and he's got a new theme song. Because I like the fact that he kept the group theme. Because, like, historically in factions, you have got that one wrestler. Because it's a group theme, but they all have their own theme because they're that selfish, that ego. But there's that one wrestler that gets saddled with the theme song of the group, and that was him. And obviously, that is Mox's theme at the end of the day, and I want him to keep in the custody during the divorce. get a new theme song, guys, for the Death Riders, because I don't want that pop song to come back. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have the rant for when we talk about Mox. Wild Thing, I fucking hated that song. But
I
anyway,
know you
Wheeler needs a
did.
new theme song. Wheeler needs a new theme song because that whole Pure Riso theme song, whatever, it doesn't vibe with him now. He's a chicken shit heel. Give me a chicken shit heel theme song. But the match was good, but I had issue with the timing. The timings were off. It's a bit
Mm.
quick. Oh no, next guy. And then the last portion, bless Ace Austin on Twitter. Man, I was gonna come out. My music was queued up because he tweeted that he was the next guy that was meant to come out. And
No,
I was
you
like,
weren't.
but I like the fact he's trying to keep Kayfabe. I like that. Good worker. But I hate the fact that it went for a long stretch without anyone coming out. It did feel like, oh, that's the last one. And I hated that because previous ones they've done, it wasn't that bad. It was like Roddy Strong saying, I was meant to come out next. And you guys, you screwed me. And that was a good thing because he led him to feuding whoever won that one. But I
That's
didn't
fair.
like, yes. He's
I know
he,
exactly what you're talking about.
he
I know
knows.
exactly what you're talking
He
about. This
knows.
is why we're same wavelength.
I have vague sketchings of what happened, and he's got the vivid picture. Love that guy. So yeah, so for me, it was the timing. It was an issue. I didn't really enjoy it, but the Mark Davis, because you asked me last week who should be in the C2. Mark Davis needs it because there's a reason why Aussie Open, because people forget it. That's what I'm saying. I hate it because I feel like Aussie Open's mainstream attention was so brief that they didn't know what the hardcore fans used to say. It wasn't even Kyle Fletcher back in the days. It was like, yeah, the guy with the curtains, whatever. Mark Davis was the guy in the group. When you watch Aussie Open tag matches, it was him just doing fucking sick, gnarly things. And yeah, Fletcher was great. Don't get it twisted. It was like Mark Davis in the ring was a beast. And those injuries and the fact that Fletcher has grown so much as a person, maybe I should save that for the Fletcher portion. But yeah, we're talking about Mark Davis. He starts going on a run. Remember, he recently got injured, and I said it. I felt like he's now wearing the trunks, and I kept saying, "Oh, he's Australian Samoa Joe. He's Australian Samoa Joe." And then in this match, he's showing you he's the kind of monster that people have been crying about because you see on Twitter sometimes, what happened to independent wrestling? Why is there no fresh new wrestler? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, listen, Mark Davis is legit, like from the lineage of kaijus. People are like, oh, Mike Awesome. And I'm like, you hypocrite. I was alive when Mike Awesome was around and you guys ain't giving me his flowers. So fuck you. So now you got Mark Davis. Yeah, because I hate it. Because you got a lot of wrestlers right now that you're not rallying behind. Like the Chad Gable, you're going to wait for him to retire. Chad Gable, if he was around today, we world champion. He's around right now, making world champion. So yeah, Mark Davis is around right now. So rally behind him. Get on the Dunkzilla train. Let's do it. I was happy for him.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. It was
that
a lot of people made the most of their time in this match.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a number of these casino gauntlet matches that just kind of like it's just here's every mid card guy and out they come to do their thing. But there were a lot of like dynamics between people that were put on display here. Obviously, Daddy Magic and Danny Garcia was a good one. The Wheeler Yuta, Orange Cassidy stuff's maybe a little played out for my liking at this point. But we got that as well. Ricochet and Hurt Syndicate combinations are doing stuff. You got the jet speed portion, loads of stuff. So made the most of their minutes. The guys did in this one for sure. And now we get Ricochet as the first champion of the nation. So I hope it goes well. I have no reason to think that it won't. He's been a guy that needs a prize for a long time. I like that this kind of pays off him wanting to get himself a group to ensure that he can win gold.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't just kind of come out of nowhere. Like a lot of this stuff, the Ricochet and the Demand bit has kind of been percolating for months and months at this point. So I'm glad that they tied off that narrative thread and now we can see what he does with it. We then had Kyle O'Reilly and John Moxley.
Wow.
This match was probably the one I was most looking forward to on the show after a very strong performance on Wednesday. And I thought it was good. Didn't think it was great. I thought it was good. It was better than fine, but I think this was about where the crowd tapped out of the show, you know. And they would kind of come and go because I would say Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher was also a highlight, and they had the fans for that for the most part. But this one, maybe it just wasn't their cup of tea. This kind of like no holds barred match that was more about doing submissions in ropes and not having to break or whatnot than it was about the violence of it all. Like there still was a bunch of like fork usage, and anytime they stabbed one another with forks, it was the biggest reactions of the match, you know. But it was just kind of quiet for points, and like Kyle would lock in the ankle lock at various points and you wouldn't get a big pop, when it's like, that's the point of the match. That's Mox's Achilles heel for this last month. That's supposed to be significant. Crowd, let's wake the fuck up. And then they started singing Seth Rollins music when John Moxley hits a fucking stomp. And I was like, why is that the one thing you're going to react to? Who are you fans? You are not my AEW faithful.
No, they're not.
Singing Seth Rollins fuck ass music in the
Fuck
middle of a
yes.
John Moxley fucking bloodbath.
Fuck yes, I love it.
Who the fuck are you all, New Jersey? I didn't care for that.
Same.
I don't like that fucking song anyway. Like, I don't care for.
I love it. I love
I
it.
don't care for Seth Rollins' music.
I've never liked any of his previous iteration of his theme songs. I was not a fan of. The one that he had when he was the Monday Night Messiah sounded very basic. I was like, I can make up in 2 minutes as well. It just didn't have any. It didn't have any emotional weight to it. So when he had this, I was like, oh, it's hitting my sensory overloads. And all that kind of stuff. It's the fans that is because when you, it's kind of like Yeet and a lot of different things. When you hone in on something, it's great, it's magical, and then you start spamming it. That's when you become sick of it. I think you become sick of it. I think when it first, for me, when it first came out, I was like, stab it into my veins. I love it because I never really liked it. His original one, people like it. And I'm like, wait, it's just a bunch of noise. I can do it. That's not music. That's like a whole lot of percussion. Like I grew up in Jim Johnson when it's music, melody, key, even and it's like even if it's metal, it's got like some synth undertones onto it. But Seth Rollins' theme was legit, like someone just farted it into like a machine. Bam, bam, bam. Blah, 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 blah. But anyway, that's not a WWE podcast we're doing. We're doing AEW. People reacted to that theme song. Boo you.
Yeah, boo you.
Yeah.
God damn it. Like, it just wound me up. If they were hot for everything in the match and then did that, fucking sure, whatever, fine. But the fact that they were silent through the bits that actually mattered and then sang the WWE song, I was like, fuck, man. Like, lock the fuck in. This is a big fucking deal for Kyle O'Reilly.
Right?
And ultimately, I loved the closing finish. Like the finish of the match, I thought was great because most of this match is them kind of trading various submissions and everything. They trap Kyle's arm in the chair and they stomp it closed, and then he's selling the arm for the rest of the match. And eventually, Kyle does submit Mox again with the ankle lock, and Mox is selling in the ankle lock. Fucking superb. I don't know if anybody is a better seller in 2025 than John Moxley. And that's pretty crazy. But you can highlight a number of very specific examples of a moment, and in particular, the finish of matches being supremely elevated because of how John Moxley is selling. And this was the last one where he's like, how the fuck am I in this situation again? I'm fucked. I can't be fucked, but I'm fucked and I have to tap. And that was brilliant. Loved that. I was very happy to see Kyle O'Reilly win this match. I was not happy. I was not happy to see him get fucking beat down after the match. Because, listen, the same people that'll be telling me to fucking let it play out with regards to Hook will probably be telling me to let it play out in here too. I have been fucking blue-balled with this goddamn Death Riders split for so long. For so long. John Moxley has quit in like 4 of the 5 major matches that he's had recently. And the Death Riders have lost 5 of their last 6 major matches going back to All In. And even fucking before that, didn't they goddamn lose that Anarchy in the Arena too? What the fuck? You know what I mean? It's fucking nonsense. Like, and I wouldn't have so much of a problem with it if we weren't being hit with the same note of it time and time again. You know, like fucking Mox loses the belt. Good. All is still good with the world. Death Riders lose it. Forbidden Door. Fine. Whatever. You know, you get your heat back after the match. It's a big cage. It's a ballyhoo schmaz that's more about giving Tanahashi a send off than like actually vanquishing the dastardly heels. It is that, but there are other things going on. It's very Will Ospreay centric as well. He could beat Darby one time, then Darby like beats him outright. They fucking tie the whole. It's the main event of the show. They tie up the whole angle in a nice little bow at the last pay-per-view, and then he comes out the next show and says, "I'm not done with you. Why the fuck are you not done with them? You beat them. You made them lose the belt, then you beat the whole team. Now you've made the leader quit." And sure, but I'm sure there will be people saying that like they're not going to turn on Moxley after like him just quitting one time. You need the progression to see it happen a few times in a row. But this is 4 times in a row that he's quits it all in, quits at Wrestle Dream, quits it the fucking Blood and Guts match, and now he's quit here, and they still haven't done the fucking angle. I thought we were going to get it at the end of Blood and Guts to be like, okay, you needed to get to Blood and Guts, so here you go. And I guess they felt they needed to get to this match. And then here you but I don't understand the amount of time that it's taken. I feel like we are stepping back from the line of like we've missed the peak if our conversation about Brodito and FTR and everything and peaking with the finish and all that is applied to this. I feel like we have gone past the peak now with regards to when to do this fucking thing. And if it doesn't happen on Wednesday, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
I feel like this is part A of this is part 1 of a 2-part conversation. So the second part will be when we review Dynamite, because by then we hopefully got the resolution, because he did that post-match promo, this whole gif with their reaction. So the post-match beatdown, I'm with you. I was happy that Kyle won. If it is that Kyle is legit injured, then fair enough. I see it as a case of like he lost, because everything goes back to Marina for like in certain cases. Because if you remember, he puts the chair on his bicep, steps on it. What does he instantly do? Goes to Marina for validation. Yeah, that was like him saying, look at me, I'm still that guy. Then he taps out, right? He gives a little nod of respect. He goes outside, and you can see Marina. And one of the best things as well was when he was tapping out, Marina's face, her facial reaction of the sadness and disappointment. It's like a disappointed mom. My son lost again in his tournament. He lost in his Olympic trial. He lost in his amateur wrestling tournament. He lost again. She had that face of disappointment. And I think he saw her. Like the fact that she wanted to help him back with his leg. And he's like, no, I'm fine. Because he gave a little nod of respect. But I feel like he felt that he was looking weak. And what do Death Riders usually do? If we lose, we beat people down. That for me screams desperation. When you do something, it's like it screams of desperation because you want to reassert yourself as a leader. Even when he does that promo outside and they're all there's something different about that promo. It's not all of them chipping in. All of them are not saying, yeah, I lost as well. It's not over. It's just him talking in riddles. It's him trying to like grandstand hot dog. It's kind of like when you have you're part of a cult, and then your cult leader is exposed as a false prophet. So he's doing everything he can to kind of rally people. Like, it's not over. You got to remember the testament. You got to remember the value, the core values. Loss means nothing. It's all about what you get afterwards. I won the war. That was the battle. The battle means nothing. Look at me. I can still walk with my broken leg. It's the war. Look at him. He's taken out. That is the victory in itself. No, it's not. It's him being desperate. It's him trying to appear like he still has a sense of control, and he's so deluded he doesn't know that Claudio and everyone sees through it. You even see like the funny thing is Daniel Garcia is like a new member of a cult, and they're like, what the fuck is going on here, man? I thought this was a kosher group. And then you got Willie Utah. I feel like he's like the most innocent of all the members because he was emotionally traumatized into being in the group. Not like he's like, yeah, I like your ideology, I'm into it. He was traumatized. And how did it traumatize him? By taking away his beloved leaders, his beloved trainer. He's the one that he looked up to the most, Brian Danielson being the person I'm talking about. And now that he's been indoctrinated into this group, not willingly, it's just he got abused into it. He's probably starting seeing, man, you're not long for this world either, because you're like Brian Danielson now. You're becoming everything you said Brian was. You're weak in mind, weak in spirit, and you no longer can go. Your way is no longer working. What happened to Danielson is going to happen to you. He probably is the last to realize. He's noticing. Oh, he doesn't know it's going to happen. But Claudio's face the whole time was like he stepped on dog poo. Like, stay the fuck away from me. Now, the whole time you see Claudio's face, I'm going to uppercut you. Just shut your mouth.
He's got
And then
murder in his eyes.
Right? And Pac is so disinterested. And then, again, Daniel Garcia is kind of like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And Marina's just like, oh, just shut up. So yeah, I think we've when you're saying like we're slow walking the dog, you've been looking at the edge of the cliff for so long. It is a case of like, you're not gonna slip, you're gonna get pushed off the cliff. It's push off the cliff time. It's time.
Yeah. I think it's time. I think it's been time. And I think you still could have done it here, had a narratively satisfying thing, because it's interesting. And maybe I just kind of want to like, I've been formulating a thought about Moxley and the character and the storyline and this match and all this, right? Because what is all this Death Rider shit in theory born out of originally? It's getting this, next generation, quote unquote. Kyle O'Reilly's not a young man and whatever, but like, getting the undercard to step up and be main eventers, basically. Kyle O'Reilly is doing that by doing all this, right? And I think you could have done a deal where they do the match exactly as they did. And Mox, you see him, he kind of gives like the nod of like kind of approval and everything at the end. Maybe Mox shakes his hand, sticks his hand out and went, you know what? You're something. Like, you beat me, and that's not nothing. Here you go, shake his hand. And everybody else sees that and goes like, oh, what the fuck? He is weak. Look at him shaking this man's hand. We got to kill him. You jump him and do all that. What? Because the question of all this to me has been, what the fuck is going to happen next? Right? Where is the split going to leave Jon Moxley and going to leave the Death Riders? Like, character-wise, and where are we going after? And I haven't really had an answer to any of that, because I don't know how these pieces kind of work. You could have Moxley face your Claudios and your Pacs and the group after they turn on him, and sure. But as far as the characters go, what is going to be the crux of this other than just he's a loser who quits and loses? And I think you could have done a deal here by having Mox shake Kyle's hand and do that, to then have the other guys look at him as weak, jump him, and come out of this with Mox kind of turning a little baby face and saying, no, you all have lost sight of this. It's not a bad thing that I've lost, because that means that this new guy is won. This is what we started this all based on. It's to inspire this next generation to come up and elevate themselves. Not these words, obviously. And what has that been? We've seen Darby Allin do just that. We have seen Kyle O'Reilly do just that. We've seen all these guys go into Blood and Guts and do just that. Is that not exactly what we wanted through all of this? And then it just kind of comes out through their actions and whatnot that the rest of the Death Riders didn't give a shit about the mission. They were just the heel group that was on top, And instead they've gone the route of like Mox is, kind of desperate, exactly as you have explained it, where he lost, and he maybe is feeling within himself that he's coming off weak by like giving the nod of approval, and goes in there and no, I have to kill this man. Look, I'm still tough. I'm still the man.
Yeah,
Yeah, look, I'm gonna go back there and do my fucking crazy ass promo and do push-ups and all that.
yeah, exactly. Overcompensate.
Because I do think a lot of the character of John Moxley over the last year has been intentionally delusional.
Mm.
And there is a story to potentially tell of that was never his mission either. He just wanted to be on top, you know, and that would also be fine. But I don't know what the next chapter after the breakup is for that story of delusional Mox lying to himself. Maybe he can come to and be convinced otherwise by people. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm scratching my head and I'm tired of fucking wondering what is going to be next. I'm ready to get to what's next.
This is what I'm hoping. You're right. I think what you're also trying to get to is it's quite hard. Is him getting jumped shouldn't automatically make him babyface because he hasn't done anything to earn that right, that sympathy.
Correct. Yeah.
So I feel like there's one person that could help, and a person that rarely gets used in the storyline. And you know who I'm getting to? His wife works in the company, because I don't want to do the whole hyping it up. His wife.
I thought you were talking about someone else.
No. I just want to get straight to the point. I'm not gonna do a long build up. You know, there's one. His wife works in the company. Okay, I'm just gonna get it to you because I didn't watch it, but I heard in the grapevine, based on Twitter, wherever it was, that there was one pre-show when she went to him, "Don't Go Too Crazy," and that was interesting. Like she was slowly being incorporated because up until now, she'd been like, "Yeah, I'm his wife, but I'm at work. Okay, whatever John does. Please leave me out of it. I'm not happy either." But I do feel like in order to get that sympathy, I'm thinking Macho Man and Elizabeth, because what did he do to earn that sympathy? Her just running out there and fending off Sherry Martel. And I'm not saying Renee should go and fight Marina. No, I'm just saying that you need that human decency, that because that humanity in John has been gone for a long time. And I just wanted that his wife be the one to like bring it out of him. They attack him and she's like shielding or trying to like, you guys are going to, because it has to be that beatdown. Because it's Moxley. I can see him that this beatdown needs to be like, people are like feeling sorry for me. So they have to put him in a stretcher job, bloody, whatever. And his wife has to be there, the one to bring him back from the light. It's like, see, this is a consequence of your action. It's kind of like that morality tale, the rise and fall. This is for, you're Tony Montana, you got shot by all these people, but instead you're not dead. You're in hospital. Lucky you. Mm-hmm. And you need to repent. And also Sting Jr., because Sting was the king of like, yeah, Rick, you can betray me. I'll still come to your aid. You're not a babyface. You need a partner. I'll do it, even though you betrayed me before, whatever. Mm-hmm. Darby Allin needs to be the next piece of like, like, this is why I'm trying to warn you, John, and then it is a case of Eddie Kingston, those types of people to kind of like vouch for him and also like to bring him back to his old self. So you need to surround him with the people that will bring that out of him, because him by himself is quite hard. He's got a laundry list of things he's done bad. He's almost like in that Hangman Page stage where he needs a Christopher Daniels, and I feel like his wife could be the Christopher Daniels, because it's kind of like Darby, you got burnt. Why would you vouch for this guy? Eddie, because he hasn't done his storyline, he could be the Christopher Daniels either. He can be, as in if you don't want to involve Renee. He needs someone that's like, told you Claudia was a snake, all that kind of stuff. He needs that that person to be like accountability person to get him back to being the babyface.
You know who I thought you were talking about?
Oh, you might know something that's even, yeah.
What do you think about the possibility of writing Danielson back into this story?
He used plastic on his head, man. Like that's quite hard. You know what I'm saying? That is quite.
I get it, but you talk about like, these people that people love that are beloved and also are valiant and could potentially maybe find it in the goodness of their hearts to look at a Moxley and be like, all right, we started all this together kind of thing. Just like, you got carried away and I'll be the bigger man to pull you out of the darkness type shit. Kind of like, you look at the Christopher Daniel comparisons, like,
yeah,
the guy that you retired by doing that, I don't know. I was just spitballing.
No,
It
no,
was
but
like,
the more you pitched it, it does sound like Danielson. But I feel I don't know that betrayal felt very personal to me. With Darby's like
mhm,
it's wherever. It's kind of like Darby's like a casualty of war. It's like you stand in my way for the soul of AEW. It's kind of like Brian had no choice. Brian didn't start the fight. Brian's like, oh, I thought we're on the same team. That betrayal was different. It's like we started this gym together, we started this business together, and you're cutting me out, and you're never giving me a chance to even choose to join the group. It was like, I'm doing my own thing. This doesn't fit me anymore. Get out. We're killing you. We're taking you out. You know. So
mhm.
that's why I'm like, she should have coded some sort of gripe. But there is I know, because again, I still feel like Darby is more like is a casualty of war. Is wrestling. It's the price you pay for getting in the ring. You should know. You fight Moxley. These are the shit you might go through. But I don't know. They put plastic over his head, man. It was quite really turned on him. There's that level. Like he had to
It's
retire.
gnarly. Yeah,
Yeah, he
like
had
I
to
get it.
retire. You took
I
my
get it for
livelihood.
sure.
I didn't know
I'm
if I'm
just
coming
thinking,
back or not.
like
No, but
of
you're
all
right as well.
the
That's
people that are going to talk to Moxley, I think we've named like the 4 characters that
yeah,
could talk him
yeah.
out of being an asshole,
Mm.
but like to see the guy that you killed be like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, being given forgiveness and all of that. I'm not even saying Danielson would be the number one choice of the options there, because I do think involving Eddie Kingston at some point would be an easy ticket, to people being invested in you and whoever you're associated with being baby faces. So
Hmm.
who knows? Hopefully, we don't have fucking long to find out. We'll see how it all goes. Hopefully on Wednesday. We got a few more matches to get through
Yeah,
on
let's
this
let's
here pay-per-view.
let's run through them.
So let's run through them. We got Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher for the 6th time, I believe, for the TNT title in a no DQ match. And if Mark Briscoe lost, he had to join the Don Callis family. And he didn't. Instead, this is Mark Briscoe's time.
We talked about
Mark
this.
Briscoe, boy, he was just being put through all manner of fucking tables, ladders, chairs, and more, to start this match. Like, they would set something up, and Mark would go through it. He gets brainbustered on a chair on the outside, goes through the chair. That looked like it sucked. He sets up a real flimsy looking ladder on the outside, sets Kyle on it, and then dives. He goes through that ladder. That looked like it sucked. They set up a few tables. He gets pushed off, does a swanton from the top turnbuckle through the table on the floor as he's distracted by the Don Callis. That looked like it sucked. Cal Fletcher puts him through a table in the corner. That looked like it sucked. Over and over and over again. This was just Mark Briscoe taking all manners of punishment. They start to balance themselves out a little bit. They introduce tax, and then Cal Fletcher gets a fisherman buster into the tax. So that looked like it also sucked. But they're just trading big moves. I was fucking shocked. Not quite shocked. I'm literally doing the fucking fry me from Futuron. Shocked. Well, not that shocked. Because there was still potpourri that had been introduced that hadn't been used at the time they did the big spot. Like they did their big off the top of the ladder froggy bow
That was
through
nice.
the table
Standing for you,
onto
bro.
tax. Beautiful, picture perfect. They couldn't have done it better. Standing atop the ladder. And I saw that and went like, Jesus, that's got to be the finish. And then it wasn't. And then I remembered, oh yeah, there's a barbed wire table on the outside that was introduced and not used. Probably not going to have the finish until that happens. Eh? And sure enough, we continued on. They both hit brainbusters into the tax. Both ways, each of them hit one. The screwdriver got introduced and used. They put the screwdriver facing up in the turnbuckle. They looked to try and impale him. And thankfully, it never got close, but it was still scary. And eventually, Mark Briscoe throws Fletcher through the barbed wire covered table and then hits the J Driller for the win. I thought this was the second best match on the show. And this was the only thing in the back half that the fans seemed to love throughout the entire match. This was a thumbs up affair. And Mark Briscoe is now your TNT champion. Hooray.
Kyle, you sick fuck. What are you licking blood, man? What the fuck, man? What are you doing, man? Now we know what kind of sicker you are, man. This match was really good. Like you said, second best match of the night. People reacted to it, but it's also a double-edged sword of there's been complaints about someone on Twitter. Again, I need to start making notes of people's names, wherever it is. But I think most of the time I read bad takes. But this one was an interesting take. someone said that not every match needs to be an epic.
Mm,
So
mm,
they could have shaved some minutes off this match, but then again, if they shaved minutes, would it have been as great as we're touting it to be, or should they have saved it for Collision main event or a Dynamite main event? And it sounded like the other company where they start taking good matches of pay-per-views. I don't know. Is that weird thing where it's like we are being given dessert? I think people are crying. I'm getting dessert every menu. Where is the snacks? Where is the starter? Where is the main body? You know, so it's something with mine is like, this is not Undertaker with Shawn Michaels. Why is this getting like a 25-minute, showcase, wherever it is? But if you watch the VO Mark Briscoe did, he was trying to make us feel like dicks about the conglomeration. Family. We're like, this
yeah.
group is family. And I'm like, oh, okay, Mark, we get it. This is but we kind of alluded that this is a safe haven for everything that everyone's been through, especially him in real life, non-kayfabe. But to have that VO and for him to win was great, because in the other company it would be like, here's the VO, trauma porn, he lost,
Yeah.
revel in that misery. A part of me thought he was going to win because it was that feud of MJF. How can you can't spend months trying to make him like a viable baby face or someone worthy of rallying behind? Because up until then, he was known as the baby face that lost a lot. And it seemed like this year that, Tony really likes him, like the Briscoe and the history, who they are. He's a legend. He's a legend. Part of the tag team, a legend. But now he's a solo star. He's proven his worth as a single star, and they had him beat MJF, and anyone. And there's a small list of people that's being MJF. So for him to win, that's a good club to be a part of. So we kept saying that victory against MJF has to mean something. It can't be a throwaway question at a quiz one day. It has to like lead something. And for him to win that, and I know what you're also thinking. You're like, well, but Kyle Fletcher, and I hate, because I don't want to go against what we say, but Kyle Fletcher will be fine because this is Kyle Fletcher's first time as a singles wrestler. If it's his second, third time, if it's Sammy Guevara-esque third, fourth time, yeah, sure, throw it in the bin. But he's the kind of guy is like, he's either going to get a second TNT title run, or let's prop him for the world title or different or national title if we're still doing a side quest. Heck, let's get that Aussie Open tag team run for a little bit, because it's kind of weird. I know, because it's not he lost. I don't know, Temple, I'm throwing it to you. If for some weird reason, Fletcher's feeling some type of way because he's beltless, he's kind of like, come on, Mark, let's go win his tag titles. Would you be fine with it, knowing that it's probably part of a storyline, kind of like Tony Storm? He feels naked without belt, so he's like, let's I need to be champion. Let's just do this. How would you feel?
Well, it goes back to kind of what I've been saying when we were kind of bandying the idea of him losing this title to Mark Briscoe in the weeks leading up to this match. I don't have necessarily a problem with Kyle Fletcher having lost his TNT title here, right? The idea of doing that is not immediately a negative, as long as what comes next is still the evolution of his character. I don't want him to have lost this title and then just kind of float about for a bit. I want
Yeah.
him to be the potential kind of main character of the show a year out from reaching his zenith, maybe, or however long. So I don't have a problem with him come January, because he said he's going to be in the C2. So there's your December kind of wrapped up. That's what he'll be doing. I don't have a problem if by January he's like, I didn't win the C2. I need a fucking belt. What belt can I get? Mark, we're going after the tag belts. I need a belt. I need to feel, I need to feel something. I am okay with that if that is still furthering his character. I wouldn't see him stepping back into Aussie Open as a regression just because, that is something he did before. If it has new significance sewn into it because of where his character has been since, that all is fine to me. Whether they win those belts or they lose and then he spirals further or whatever, I'm not sure. I think the reason that I, in particular, and perhaps other people as well, were kind of hoping that Kyle Fletcher's TNT title reign would be like that Randy Orton reign with the Intercontinental title when he was young, to kind of be like the lengthy title reign that goes like, 7-8 months, something like that. I think a lot of people looked at that as hopefully the trajectory, because him having a record-breaking TNT title reign is a significant thing to do. While it doesn't feel like there is a top spot available right now for him to step into.
Mm.
You know, like I don't know what his next step is, if it is being involved in the world title program, because it feels like that's kind of occupied at the moment, even with people out and everything. It still kind of feels like it's not quite time for you to be world champion. That can be part of the story for sure, but the absence of the TNT title prompts the next chapter perhaps sooner than other people would have liked if the TNT title reign ended up being like 9 months long. You know,
Mm.
if we start getting
Yeah.
towards, the all-in period next year, there might be a bit more kind of either space at the top or people who have finished up feuds that he can then go into and tell his next story with. I don't know what the immediate next thing for him is outside of like being involved in whatever the Okada Takeshita dynamic is going to be. And that might be coming to a head soon, and that might play into various bits. I'm not quite sure. So, to answer your question in a very long winded form, him jumping into an Aussie Open reunion run and having a shot at the tag titles and everything doesn't immediately sound like a bad idea to me, because I can see a logical path forward for him as a character to continue to grow doing that, where he still doesn't need to be like kind of knocking on that main event door, but no one is answering it for him. Is that's the best kind of way I could put it.
And I'm also hoping by 2026 that Mark is still healthy enough that the Dunkzilla, like him, the Aussie Hoss character that he's been portraying, well, he's never been portraying, he's being him being Mark Davis is enough to get people excited about having those two guys. Because I think people got him fucked up because a lot of people don't know who he is. He was United Empire. Yeah, he's part of that tag team. They lost against MJF and Adam Cole. That was funny, right? Because you saw glimpses. But when you finally see what he can do in the ring, I feel like a lot of people are gonna see things differently, because a lot of people were blown away, and I was like, yeah, man, like both of them are great. It's not just one. You got two talents. Don't let WWE like that mantra of like one has to be a scrub and the other one's the W. They both can be both W's. They both can be both diamonds. They both, like, Mark Davis could be a national champion one day, and so forth and everything like that. He's got Don Callis for a reason. Don Callis could do the talking. He could be the monster. Yeah, let's see where it goes, and because I would love to talk more about it, but we'll get into that. It's 10:17 here, and I want to talk about other things, which being the trios match for the $1 million belt. $1 million belt. Imagine if it was $1 million purse. I do want to say the crowd for me ruin my enjoyment of the match, because there's certain things they should have reacted. It's kind of like a theater show, and you're there like these are like the moment you should be responding, and they annoyed the heck out of me. It seemed like the main event when Swerve came back, it didn't sound like he came back after the song stopped, because they weren't really reacting. They're standing side by side. Why is it tepid? In this show, it was tepid. Even like what we got later, the long awaited reunion, tepid.
Indeed, because this match was the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander versus Kenny Omega at Jurassic Express. And yeah, I agree. Very tepid. Like, I would have to watch both of them again to know for sure, but I think I felt more strongly about the match on Dynamite against Skyflight. Like, you had stuff in that match. Like, as far as the matches go, it was a lot of the same stuff that we saw in that. Like the same sort of like friendly fire between Alexander and the Bucks. The same kind of like Josh Alexander just kind of being a dick and tagging himself in and causing the dissension. And it was a bit of a rerun in that sense. And obviously there was a more formidable team on the other side, but I didn't feel like we got quite enough of the Josh Alexander and Kenny Omega stuff together to feel like that was really an appetizer that would leave me wanting more and needing to see a singles match between them, which I hope is something that we can get at some point, because I know that's a big deal for Josh Alexander himself. But like, that feels like a narrative next step for Kenny's never-ending feud with the Don Callis family. I
Right.
realized today that he's literally been feuding with Don Callis in some form or fashion for 2.5 years. And granted, he was gone for a year of that, but like, my God, can we find another story for Kenny Omega to tell right now, please? Because
This is his
Jurassic Express too, just to finish that point, but like Jurassic Express was more impressive last month when they were just facing the Bucks in a straight up tag. Everybody just kind of went through the motions. Like, here's the bits that we need to do before we get to the angle afterwards.
what I was trying to say is this is very Paul Jones Army versus Boogie Woogie Man. Like this is
Mhm.
his version of the Rogues Gallery of Don Callis, because there will be no Don Callis family without the betrayal. And you're right. I think because again, kind of like Death Riders, Don Callis family's turned the corner with much better members, and the dynamic is much better than what it was a couple of years ago, especially when
Mhm.
Jericho wanted to be like Golden Jets or whatever it was. So that
Ugh.
was yeah, exactly. So I much prefer this. It's a shame that Ibushi's not here. You can see the vision of what was going to happen. Your Golden Elite T-shirt was gonna come in handy.
Yep. For
You know,
once.
yeah, but I'm afraid to. I mean, yeah, what happened in the end? Let's get to the point where we're poo pooing it, because Jungle Jack does a great Hurricane Rana, reminding us, man, he was hiding that for like a couple of years. Crazy.
Yeah, so there were good moments in it for sure. Like, there was, some good wrestling to be had. No one here is a slouch, but we got towards the end, we hit the BTE trigger on Jack Perry, got the pin, million
Yay!
dollars.
Mm.
Hooray. They all grabbed their big old purses full of money, and they all start walking up the ramp, and Don Callis is like, "Yay, I got the bucks. Million dollars, and these young bucks are in the family." And up they go, and they milk it for a long time as Josh then continues to attack Kenny. The rest of the family's down there. They're putting the boots to him. They're doing whatever. And the Young Bucks are looking back, and Don's like ushering them away. And they look back again. And this continues on. And finally, they drop the money. Friendship is more important than money. And they run back down and they super kick the Don Callis family. They shake hands with Jurassic Express. They go to shake hands with Kenny Omega, and he pushes the hands away and then gives them both a hug. Aw, how lovely. Um, yeah, it was all right.
Because it was flat. That's why it was all
It was
right.
it was flat. It's
Yeah.
it's really tough. I could tell that a lot of, not exactly beat for beat being recreated, but the seemingly not going to happen and then hug is very reminiscent of the Golden Lovers reunion in 2018 in New Japan.
Mm.
But I thought that was done much better, with also a crowd that gave a shit. Them doing that and the crowd chanting just hug it out, hug it out. It's like, I guess that they were chanting for the thing that you're meant to want to see, but it didn't feel like the hug that would have people crying. It wasn't,
Yeah.
the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth coming back together and people are weeping. It wasn't the Golden Lovers coming back together and people are weeping. I maybe it's just because we've kind of seen elite breakups and reunions a lot in the last few years, it feels like. But just from how this was shot to how it's presented to the crowd not really being into the match quite as much, like, yeah, it's just like, it kind of felt like how I was feeling going in, that the Elite are probably going to get back together, and isn't that nice? And hopefully it's going to be good, but I have my reservations, and it's played out. And I was like, yep, I still have those reservations. I don't know if this is going to be a hot angle and act and everything coming
No.
out of this. I would love that, because I love these guys. I've not forgotten what started AEW in the first place by any means, but it was just fine. It was nice, but not groundbreaking by any means.
I loved it. I when Don. So basically, the Bucks get their bags and they leave, and Matt and Nick are talking, because Don made the assumption, they're part of the group. Let's go. They're done. We're on the purse. They didn't even want to hear the big, yes or no. In his mind, I got you money. You're not broke anymore, whatever. And I heard it, by the way, Racho Kaka manga, like as in poo poo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was on purpose, because he's very flippant on commentary. Whatever, they were destitute when I found them.
Yeah.
His proper was like saying that they are lucky that I'm even sneezing in their direction, sort of thing. And when they win, he's like, let's go spend some money. And then when they ask him, what are you doing? Kind of like they're 12. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Kenny's been an idiot. So we're gonna break his ankle. I was like, this is so hilarious. It's a matter of fact. He's like, yeah, Kenny's been an idiot, so we're just gonna break his ankle. And then it's like, yeah, what you expect, guys? You once used to beat up Kenny Omega. You helped diverticalize him. Like, why all of a sudden it is? There are certain elements that is a weak spot in their storytelling that is quite juvenile at times. And that's why I equate them to Disney Channel kind of, storyline beats.
Mm-hmm.
There are guys that's mid 30s, close to 40. Come on. Can't be like, wet behind the ear, led by the nose. You know what? You know this business. You help start a company. You're like, I don't understand. Why would you attack them? They betrayed Kenny. Like their whole raison d'etre is in the, if you in the coat of arms, must fuck up Kenny Omega whenever you get the chance. And then that's their part. I was a bit like, come on, guys. And it is the Shawn Michaels school of acting, the melodrama that doesn't help because it's like, guys, you've done this before. If it was the first time breaking up, getting back together, sure. Guys, you're not in your 30s anymore. You're in your now late 30s. You've been around the bend. You know how this works out. This is a reunion you'll be wanting. I think it fell flat for many reasons. The crowd, and also because it's like reheated nachos or reheated fries. It just didn't hit the same. I'm happy they're back together, but then again, it would be hypocritical because it's kind of like, oh, another DX reunions, another this reunion, another Horseman reunion. Because the last reunion they had the only highlight is like they had a cool theme song. Because they had a trios run for a bit, but then after that, I have amnesia about what they did after the trios title run. Because it's like they go back together, but they didn't really move the needle. It wasn't the shot in the arm you thought it would be. Oh, Hangman's with them now. He's doing a cool entrance as well, and it's like, yeah,
That was one of the more disappointing things I've had as an AEW fan, I must say, because when Hangman finally won the title and that was the end of that story,
yeah,
the thought was sometime years from now they will all get back together and that'll be like the feel good moment that that it
yeah,
always should have been, because it wasn't really a story of fuck you Hangman. It was just a group of friends kind of growing apart and a few of them growing a bit more dickish than the other, but seen in that world title win that the Young Bucks were like, ah, fuck, we did love him though. And go do that. This is good for you. And maybe we were being an ass and we'll sit with that and we'll think about it. And then they all got back together like a year and a half later to just kind of do nothing. Like they were in Blood and Guts and they were in Anarchy in the Arena, and that was just kind of it. Like there was no big emotional payoff to that. They would do like Kenny and Hangman would be face to face during the entrances and kind of still being like, yeah, we're aligned, but we've not made up. And then they just never went back to that. They never told that story.
no,
And yeah, Kenny goes away with diverticulitis, but that was also like 9 months later. And they just didn't tell that story in 2023. That wasn't the direction they went. And because that then led to elite breakups where they were no longer aligned again, to then try to put them back together again another time. It just, like you said, it is like reheating fries for a second or third time. It's like, yeah, maybe it just doesn't actually hit quite the same way. I
no,
could I could do a whole like video essay about the comparisons and everything between that and the Golden Lovers reunion angle and all that kind of stuff and how they're not the same and how the payoff is different, just based on the characters and the goodness of various people and the kind of badness that we had in others. But I would like to think that this is going to be the start of a next chapter that is going to be very significant to all those involved. I think it's maybe more likely that we're just going to get a bunch of trios matches with members of the Don Callis family, and that, as someone who has sat through a lot of those involving the Elite in the last 2.5 years, I hope for more than that. Fingers crossed.
Unfortunately, this comparison is gonna make a lot of people probably upset. But Kenny's in his Andre the Giant in the late 80s, early 90s run, where it's like, man, I can barely hold into the ropes. So he probably needs this because he gave everything he did last decade, and he's just reaping the benefits, receiving his flowers as he should. I hope they do get another trios title run. Because think about this, because it hasn't been said yet. How about them beating the Ops for the trios title, right? A little shot in the
Sure,
bum, right?
sure.
A little, a little needle, little steroids.
Yeah.
That might be something, even though it's been done before, but it's kind of like, here's your here's your commemorative award for starting the company, the founding fathers. Let's have some fun again. I think that's what it is as well. When it was miserable, I'm like, come on, where's my goofballs? Where's Super Kick Party?
Yeah, when they were trios champions the first time, it was not a fun place to be for them in
Yeah, exactly.
particular, in the
I need it.
heart of
I need
all
it.
that
Yeah,
nonsense.
I
And
need
hey,
it.
if it means getting Kenny Omega on the same screen as Samoa Joe, that I'm popping for that any which way. So yeah, I would like that. I would just yeah. It breaks my heart to think that the run of Kenny Omega in 2021 was maybe the last real top peak run that will have gotten. If I could fucking snap my fingers and take away all the pain and injuries of, I mean, I would do that for all
For a lot of
wrestlers,
people. Yeah.
but
Mm.
like can I just snap my fingers and put Kenny Omega into his most peak physical form and just give him another 15 years? Cause I would never get tired of seeing this artist perform and produce magic. Hopefully he's still got more in him. Hopefully he
Yeah.
wakes up one day and the medical research has had another breakthrough and we can fix all wrestlers up to their most perfect selves.
One last thing I want to say, because we are moving after this. If someone said to me a few years ago, "Did you know that Samoa Joe has won 2 AEW championship? That's one more than Kenny Omega." I'll be like, "You crazy fucker! That's more than Kenny,
Madness.
right? More than Kenny." Not like in the bad way. It's kind of like you would see Kenny being like that title reign was like the first of many in our mind. They're like, "Come on, this is appetizer. We got like many more title reigns to go. He's gonna break records. First
Mm-hmm.
5-time champion is gonna be him."
Wasn't to be.
Mm,
Still might be, but looks unlikely. And the last match that we have to talk about here was Chris Statlander and Mercedes Moné for the Women's World Championship. Chris Statlander came out of a rocket ship. That was cool. I like that entrance. Monet hit an amount of amigos equal to her belts plus one more for the title that she was going to win. Turns out didn't. She worked over Chris Statlander's arm for a lot of it. This crowd did not give a flying fuck about this match.
ruined the match for me as well.
Um, it did, and if you just lit this crowd on fire, maybe this match would have been more. Um, but I was frustrated watching this. I was, because this was maybe second on my list of most anticipated matches, because I
Mm.
absolutely loved their series last year, over the TBS belt. Like that was a very strong addition to the end of, 2024, which was not looking good for AEW at the time. That was the women really carried some of those pay-per-views. And there were some good matches elsewhere, but like the run of Statlander and Willow into Statlander and Mercedes into Statlander and Mercedes again, it was like, oh shit, here's Chris Statlander that everybody has been, hoping would be the world champion and all that. Now she is. And back-to-back pay-per-view matches that have left me wanting a lot more. I
Mm.
don't know how much of that is her fault, how much of that is kind of circumstances. But one way or another, like it's not doing it for me. I thought this match was really boring. Like having no heat didn't help, but I didn't see much of any like big babyface fire out of Chris
Yeah.
Statlander. Like she would get frustrated because she couldn't do some moves with her arm and stuff, but like she never had that real big either babyface in peril or the babyface that needed the crowd to give me their energy so I could just fight to the very end. Like, Hangman has done in his last few big pay-per-view matches. Really gave him praise in the Wrestle Dream match with Samoa Joe for getting the people really into by the end a match that had a pretty predictable finish. This and the Tony match from Wrestle Dream, neither of which I thought were all that. And I thought it was a real interesting choice to go in the direction that they have giving Stat the belt when they did, for that to be the direction of the women's title. I don't think I've really seen much out of this reign outside of the like 2 week period where she said fuck you to the Death Riders. That was a good moment for her. That felt like a real nice, like, here I'm solidifying myself as a babyface and off we go kind of moment. But I've not seen anything of it since then.
It could
And
it
that's
um,
a real shame.
could it be is because they dumped a full circle personality change right in the middle when she won the title,
It's
right?
possible. It's possible. I would have loved to have seen a lot of different shit over the last year for Chris Statlander as a character. It is quite baffling, everything that we've gotten, and I think it does just kind of show like people, wanted to see Chris Statlander succeed and get the belt and put the women's title on someone new and elevate them and blah blah blah. But if you don't do that right, it can still come off flat, even if it is with someone that people like and want to see succeed. And yeah, I think it's kind of a cautionary tale a little bit if this doesn't turn around, in the next month or two. Because this could end up being like a title reign that ends with the next challenger, whoever that ends up being. And that will be a very mid title reign to look back on. And that's not what you want as your first world title reign. You know, it's looking dicey. It's not off to a great start, I must say.
It sounds like you have PTSD with Hangman. I love it because
Little
it is true.
bit,
Yeah.
little bit. I'm waiting for it to get good, and it hasn't. And we're a few
uh,
months in now.
you know it is as well because what she's been conveying. Because shout out to Dragon Ball Z. I think her watching that show made her go, "I want to be an alien again. This is fun." I think she saw that and she went, "I think I figured out how to be the alien character that people didn't click with or was too zany for them." Because she is more Super Saiyan. And she is talking about how she's more focused, more this, and that. And I guess when you're trying to portray that, it's almost like Steve Austin in his matches. I think she needs to study wrestlers if she meant to be impervious, because you're right. It was her conveying that kind of confidence, right? You can't look weak unless it's like Megan Bain. The obstacle, kind of like Goku, the obstacle you have to overcome. If it's Mercedes, they should have went the route where yeah, she was selling the arm, but it needed to be to the point where you're thinking she's gonna lose because of the arm, right? It wasn't. It was like, yeah, it's a limb work. Where it should have been more like aggressively going for the arm. Certain movesets she couldn't do. It had to be that is she was chopping her down like a tree. I think there should have been more of that kind of attack for Mercedes for the match to go the way you want it to build that kind of emotional bond with it. Because it was a case of like, yeah, she's going for the arm, but I'm waiting for this. It's almost like you're waiting for the twist. I'm just waiting for when she does the comeback. I'm just waiting for the comeback. Comeback happens. Oh yeah, you should win a match. So that's how it felt like. It felt like, okay, you're kind of like autopilot. It wasn't like we're gonna have this
Mhm.
epic match. It didn't feel like an epic match. It was a case because usually I equate autopilot to TV matches. So unfortunately, it felt like a TV match version of their great matches from the past. And their great match from the past was Mercedes undefeated, and we want Chris to get to the next level. Now Chris is world champion. Mercedes lost before. She could lose again because now we figured out what the storyline is with her. She can win all those titles, but can't win the big one. So it's kind of like because we telegraph a lot of things, we're kind of like predicting what the next storyline beat's going to be, and that kind of takes you out of the match. So you're not emotionally invested because you're kind of like, I could tell where you're going, just get to it, especially with the crowd sucking and your emotional engagement is out of it.
Yeah. It is tough for me because I like the idea that, Mercedes wins all these belts, but she can't win the world title.
Mm,
That I think is a good little narrative for her, right? But I think that only works if the chances she has to get him are massive epics where she is great, but the champion is the champion for a reason, and you just can't beat that person. I think you got that in the Tony match at All In. Like, here's the big climactic moment, but you're going against Tony Storm, who by all accounts is the best woman in AEW and has been proven as such. And when all the chips were down, you weren't as good as her. And that can play a role in your confidence. But now it just felt like with this match, she only lost this match because that's the story. It wasn't that Chris Statlander was like better than her. necessarily. Like, I did not feel like Chris Statlander out wrestled Mercedes or outlasted Mercedes or just couldn't be beat or anything like that. It just felt like Chris Statlander was booked to beat Mercedes in this match. And that will be the story, that Mercedes can't win the big one, but it's far less interesting when it doesn't feel earned after a match like this, a story like that. Because I see no reason why Mercedes wouldn't have been able to beat Chris Statlander here, because even though it's the story you're telling me, I don't see the real difference between Chris Statlander now and Chris Statlander a year ago in the ring. Her performance a year ago was much more impressive than the performance that she had last night. So I find that very disappointing, personally. I have
And that
found this
and that
title reign to be disappointing.
and that theme song doesn't help. I think
No, it
it's
does
like,
not.
yeah, because that whole rocket landing was great, and then that opening stinger, I was like, oh, is there another advert again? Like, is that opening stinger that kind of like is such a cold water on any good moment? Because when it gets to like the orchestral version, because the orchestral version of that song is part of that old song she had before Betrayal. So that I didn't mind it because I'm like, that's part of an old theme. Like, I was like progression of theme songs if it connecting. The first part just doesn't scream alien,
Burn, burn, boom, 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 boom,
right?
boom. Fucking get a better drop. What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah, they need a better drop, or just they need to like make it better, man. They need me Ruckus. This is not it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like we went from her trying to reconcile with Willow, her having what seems like a crisis of faith because she doesn't have a best friend. She made this new zany Australian friend. Wheeler thinking, I smell weakness. We can manipulate her. And then I think the story is because I'm not an idiot, but I think because of how abrupt it was, it is a case of like, I'm not joining you, Death Riders. I am fine on my own. I know who I am. Cue pay-per-view. I'm an alien again, and I feel like, oh, okay. I thought you dropped that. Okay, you are an alien
Yeah.
again. We do remember that. I think it is it, and I get what they're trying to do. It is this is me, my fully formed self. I am the alien. I've always been the alien, but I let that side of me go. I lost my way. This is me finding my way. Cool.
What the fuck does that mean, though? I don't know what her being an alien has to do with anything. Like, this is kind of the thing I have with like gimmicks in wrestling, right? Timeless Tony Storm found a way to integrate her character into
The old
everything that
one.
she is,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Both her in-ring work and just like the entire presentation of who she is. She is timeless, and you could just explain it. She lost her fucking mind, something cracked within her, and now she's the way that she is, right? She's a cartoon character, but through that, she got confidence and she's been successful. Mercedes is a belt collector whose ego will not be satiated until she has all the belts in the world and wants that one in particular. Whatever, right? High roller. She's the elite of the women's division, all that. I don't understand Chris Statlander's character. She's a fucking alien again. As far as I'm concerned, she just thinks aliens are cool. And I don't know what that has to do with anything. As
She
far as I'm concerned, she doesn't have a fucking character.
She is an alien. You can also argue on the flip side that if I said to you, when was she the alien initially? When she was by herself. You can also argue, yeah, I don't know why she dropped it, but you can also argue she dropped it because she's part of best friends. She became more human being around them. You can argue Chris Statlander is the kind of person that follows trends, people. I'm hanging out with Willow, we're wearing suits. I'm hanging out with best friends, I'm wearing glasses, I'm doing thumbs up. I'm now a heel because Trent's angry. It seemed like each decision, Stokely manipulated me. Each decision she made is because someone else. And it's like when she's finally by herself, shunned, no influences, right? Because she drew upon from different things. Maybe as an alien, I'm trying to fit on Earth. I'm trying to be human. What is it to be human? It's not working for me. What works for me? I am an alien. I'm going to embrace who I finally am. Individuality without being influenced by anyone else. Maybe that's what she's trying to convey. I don't know. I'm gonna ask her one day. Maybe if I do see her, I'll be like, "Where is your character? Is that did I get it right? Is it because you are an alien, but you had to suppress it to be human to fit in because whatever? And now you're like, I don't want to fit in anymore. I want to stand out. How do I stand out? I'm an alien. It's her going back to the source, kind of like Undertaker and American Badass. When his human form failed him and he got buried alive, he went back to the source. I'm a dead man because that's what the source of my power is. And that's probably hers. She did the human thing. She wasn't healed. She lost her way, but she's finding her way. I'm back. I am an alien. And I'm going to be fully fledged alien this time. Just wait and see. The wait and see kills everyone. But yes.
Oh, yeah, it sure does. I feel like you could highlight any version of our conversation from today and turn it into a full-blown episode of Ruthless Discussion. We could just do a whole show on what the fuck Chris Statlander's character is or could be. We could do a whole thing about the Elite reunion and their whole saga. You could do the whole thing about Hook in the main event scene. Do a whole thing about the tag title scene.
Yes,
The
sir.
whole thing about the future of Kyle Fletcher. All these things. So instead, you got a big old chunky ruthless discussion.
Everybody discretion right there as well. No discretion.
Yes, sir. Here reviewing AEW Full Gear 2025. And depending on how the next few months and everything go, we very well might have more of each of those things to talk about.
I look forward to it.
Hopefully, any one of those things fucking turns around between now and then. But first opportunity to do so will be this coming Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, the Thanksgiving Eve version, in which the C2 is going to kick off. So I'm sure between now and then we're going to find out who's in the bloody tournament outside of Okada, Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher. The first three announced participants in the tournament. So we have that to look forward to. And you have our review to look forward to as well, coming this Thursday on Wrestle Purist member section. Make sure you're signed up. Thank you for watching all of this. Comment down below what you thought of Full Gear. Let us know what you think of our opinions. They are ridiculous or agreeable. We're fine either way. We have each other to bounce off of.
Yes, we do.
In the yin and yang of pro wrestling, the positivity and the angry.
You're Canadian. That's not. You're going against what Canadians are known for, allegedly.
I'm the grumpiest Canadian you've ever seen. Yeah.
No, Bret Hart is. You're second.
It's true. It's true. But I look up to that man. He is my hero.
Me
so
too.
With that being said, bro, we're gonna get out of here. I'll go watch a Bret Hart match and get a.
I do want to say. I don't want to say. If Bret ever told me I'm a piece of shit, I'd be like, "You're right, Bret. I love you."
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. It's like. If I thought about it, I think about everything, like not to go off on a little tiny tangent right at the end, but like I started thinking about after the tag title match, who are the best tag teams of all time? Like if I had to make a list, if I had to make my personal list, who's on my list of the top 10 or so tag teams of all time? And I like had the thought that I probably wouldn't put the Hart Foundation on there. And then I was like, but Bret would be mad at me if I did that. If I said that to Bret Hart, he'd think I'm an idiot, and I just can't have that. So maybe the Hart Foundation are the goats. Who knows? I hope he never sees this. He's not watching this.
It's AI. It's AI, man.
let us know, Bret. Let us know who the top tag teams of all time are. Thankfully, your successors won the belts on this here show. So we hope that all goes very well. We hope you enjoyed this very long episode of Ruthless Discussion. We'll be back in a week's time with more of this show, and we'll be back on Thursday with our review of Dynamite for members only, so make sure that you are one. Until then, I am Tempest. That is Sat. We're out of time.